Chapter 633. After the battlefield was cleaned up, Long Chen examined everyone's injuries. It went without saying that this battle had been extremely fierce. Although they had all undergone complete tempering before advancing to Meridian Opening, it was still difficult for them to battle Xiantian experts. But luckily, there hadn't been that many enemies. They had only been 10 times the Dragonblood Legion. If it had been more, Long Chen wouldn't have dared let them take this risk. The death of any one of his brothers would cause him great grief. But there was no way around this. They had to take advantage of this opportunity. The cultivation bases and numbers of their enemies had been perfectly at the limit of what the Dragonblood Legion could handle. If there had been more enemies, there would have been terrible casualties. Their enemies had been just strong enough and the perfect number to give the Dragonblood Legion the best tempering. Too strong and they wouldn't be able to handle them. Too few and there wouldn't be any pressure or feeling of death. The most gratifying thing was that not a single person had died. Reality was just this cruel. Long Chen had no choice but to make everyone go through this danger. However, if they didn't take this risk this time, the Dragonblood Legion's power would be thrown behind. Next time when they had to face enemies, it would be even more dangerous. Long Chen's own cultivation speed was too fast. If he continued like this, the Dragonblood warriors wouldn't be able to keep up with him. They wouldn't be able to fight shoulder to shoulder with him. He understood each Dragonblood warrior. They were all hot-blooded warriors who would rather die on the battlefield than be abandoned, discarded, and thrown away. That was their own dignity. Long Chen also had never had any thoughts about abandoning them. So the only choice was for them to take on trials and dangers with him. Those who had been injured would be fully healed in just 3 days after consuming Long Chen's personally refined healing pills. Long Chen had everyone go rest. As for the mines? Fuck, if anyone could find the mines anymore, then they could go steal from them if they wanted to. Long Chen really had to admire himself. The entire mining region had been destroyed. Who could find the entrance to the mines? Let alone the Xiantian Dao Sect's mines, even 2 neighboring mines had been buried. But it wasn't so important. The black gold ore was almost depleted, thus, no one had any hope toward that elusive phoenix blood black gold. As for the miners, they only worked part-time nowadays. During the past few days, there hadn't been any mining at all, so there was no one buried underground. And so, the mines could just be left buried. This way, they also didn't need to worry about being attacked for the mines. The original buildings had been destroyed now, so everyone could only live in tents. Within a certain tent, Zhou Kun lay on the ground, his eyes closed and blood pouring out of his 7 orifices. His face was an unhealthy yellow color, and his aura was incredibly weak. Long Chen, can you save the district chief? If this continues, he might die. The elder who had once threatened Long Chen begged him for help now. This elder was bewildered. Zhou Kun's cultivation base was the highest here, but then why was he the one to receive the heaviest injuries now? I could. Long Chen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Really? Great. Hurry and heal him. The problem is, why should I save him? The elder almost died from rage. We're all members of the same sect here. How can you just watch as someone dies? How can I just watch as someone dies? I really have to admire you. Just how did you manage to make your skin so thick? When we were facing those corrupt enemies, you all just hid in here like tortoises. Why didn't you think of such sanctimony at that time? Snorted Long Chen. That was... The elder was speechless. At this time, Meng Qi suddenly sighed. Long Chen let it go. After all, we're all members of the same sect. At this time, we should be united against outer enemies. Right, this lady's words are entirely correct. We should be united, cried the elder. Long Chen sneered and didn't say anything. Meng Qi walked over and examined Zhou Kun. The district chief's cultivation base is high, but his spiritual strength is too weak. He definitely must have tried using his spiritual strength to examine the battle, and as a result, he didn't retract his spiritual energy in time and received a backlash to his soul. The elder's heart shook. Meng Qi was correct. The The Zhou family didn't have any talent when it came to spiritual strength. As for Zhou Kun, his spiritual strength was famed for being weak. He didn't question her words at all. However, he couldn't understand why Zhou Kun would use his spiritual strength that way. Perhaps only he knew. But then how can you save him? Asked the elder. After all, Zhou Kun was their leader. They had to rely on him for everything. Although the elder was also a member of the Zhou family, he hadn't been given knowledge about many things. Also, Zhou Kun hadn't passed anything to him, so it was all too easy for him to mess up. That was why he was so anxious now. Fine. I'll sacrifice a portion of my spiritual strength to help heal his soul, sighed Meng Qi. What? Who do you think he is? He's not worthy of you sacrificing your spiritual strength. Have you gone stupid? Long Chen raged, his expression completely changing. Long Chen, you have to pay more attention to the big picture. Temporarily put down this enmity of yours, said Meng Qi. Long Chen snorted with rage and left. Seeing this, Meng Qi said to the elder, help protect me. Don't let anyone disturb me. I'll heal the district chief's injuries. 2 hours later, Meng Qi left Zhou Kun's tent. When she returned to the Dragon Blood Legion's area, Long Chen was already laughing, coming out of his tent. His previous anger had disappeared. How was it? Did you get it? He asked. You really are a scoundrel. That act of yours was so real that I even thought you got angry, said Meng Qi. Quick, get in. Tell me, what are they up to? Long Chen pulled Meng Qi into his tent. Tang Wana was also present. After resting for a while, Tang Wana was no longer as pale as before. This Zhou Kun really did have a plot. Long Chen, you really were smart. You even thought of such a plan. Meng Qi looked at Long Chen and sighed. Overpraise, overpraise. Long Chen laughed mischievously. When it came to handling bad people, he always had many cons. Zhou Kun had truly been schemed against by Long Chen. When the shockwaves from Tang Wana and the corrupt Celestials' attacks had reached him, Long Chen had directly used his spiritual strength to force Zhou Kun into a slumber. But Long Chen hadn't expected Zhou Kun's spiritual strength to be so weak. This move of his had almost dispersed his soul. Luckily, bad people always had the protection of the heavens. He hadn't died. So Long Chen had come up with an act with Meng Qi, having Meng Qi go save him. Yes, she was to save him. But at the same time, Meng Qi had used a secret technique to rifle through Zhou Kun's memories. This was different from Soul Search. It required the target to not have the slightest bit of resistance at all and a comparatively long time to do. That was why Meng Qi had wasted 2 hours in order to obtain the information that she wanted. At the same time, she had implanted some memories in him, memories that said that back then he had used his spiritual strength to probe Tang Wana and the corrupt Celestials' battle. As a result, he had been heavily injured. As for why he would do something so stupid, that was his own problem. In any case, once he woke up, he would definitely remember that he had done that stupid thing, which had resulted in this. That was enough. Long Chen, perhaps we've really fallen into a huge trap this time, said Meng Qi worriedly. It's fine. I was aware of that. But to raise the Dragon Blood Legion, we had no choice but to enter the trap. Otherwise, the Dragon Blood Legion would require a long time to stabilize their foundations, and only then could they advance. But we don't have enough time for that, said Long Chen helplessly. How could he not know this was a trap? But he had no choice. The Zhou family intentionally leaked the information that you've come to the Chaos region to the corrupt path. From Zhou Kun's memories, I also learned that their attacks won't stop here, nor will that Celestial today be the only one. In fact, the attack today was entirely not within their plans. They were supposed to gather multiple groups before giving us a thunderous strike. Furthermore, behind this matter is also the Pill Tower. Although Zhou Kun isn't aware of the whole plan, he has had interactions with the Zhou family's experts, and they implied their intentions. The Zhou family originally had enmity with you. Now they can even get a favor from the Pill Tower's Hua family, and they are using the blades of the corrupt path. They don't even have to get their own hands dirty to cut you down. Then when the time comes, they'll announce that the mine was sneak attacked, and all the ore in the mine was stolen. Then that stolen black gold ore will enter the Zhou family's pockets. It is truly a marvelous scheme, sighed Meng Qi. She was extremely shocked by this plot. But Long Chen's expression was extremely calm. He wasn't at all surprised by this kind of trap. He asked, "How much did Zhou Kuan know?" He doesn't have much information about the corrupt path. All he knew was that they won't just send one celestial. They want to kill us in one sudden strike. However, according to his expectations, the attack should have come between half a month to a month from now. As for these fellows today, they were a complete accident, said Meng Qi. Not just one? Half a month to a month from now? Hee, not bad, not bad. They're giving us a lot of valuable time. Long Chen smiled. 2 days from now, I'll bring all the members of the Dragonblood Legion away from here. As for Meng Qi, you focus on refining the heavenly Dao fruit, and Wan will protect you. You're going to leave? Could it be? Yes. You've also seen that the Dragonblood warriors have already steadied their auras after this battle. In truth, they've long since reached the peak of meridian opening. I had them suppress their cultivation bases, not letting them advance, but now I'm prepared to give them the heaven-advancing pills. They'll be able to advance perfectly to the Xiantian realm. In other words, once we return, we'll give those corrupt experts a nice surprise. Long Chen laughed. Meng Qi and Tang Wan looked at each other. If all the Dragonblood Legion advanced to the Xiantian realm, then they would be a pack of wolves and tigers. Who could possibly defeat them? Chapter 634. 5 days later, 2 huge violet phoenix sparrows that were carrying all the Dragonblood warriors arrived at an extremely barren place. This place was a whole day's travel from the Chaos region. This is a good place for everyone to undergo tribulation. Long Chen looked around and saw the ground here was all hard rock. Boss, you really want us to go through tribulation together? Asked Guoran. What? Now that you have money, you've become afraid of dying? Long Chen laughed. After destroying that corrupt army, they had obtained over 300 spatial rings. Unfortunately, the rest had been destroyed in the battle or destroyed by their owners on the verge of death. But even though it was just 300 rings, there were over 50,000 middle-grade spirit stones in them. Of course, those spirit stones all ended up in Guoran's possession. So Guoran had immediately become a rich person. Boss, the tribulation will set its power according to the strongest one of us. With Gu Yang's terrifying physical body, once the tribulation is set according to his level, I won't be able to survive. Cried Guoran. Just one of Gu Yang's arms was already about the same width as his leg. The difference was too big. Don't worry, your tribulations are focused mostly on baptism, not destruction. The only ones who ever died to tribulations were just too weak. Heavenly tribulation is extremely beneficial to the physical body. I'm confident in all of you, so I'm sure you can survive group tribulation. You'll be profiting from Gu Yang. The more powerful tribulation lightning will temper your body even better. Once you've gone through the tribulation, let alone the fact that your cultivation base will have advanced, just the strength of your physical body will make you feel like you're dreaming. Of course, in this world there's no free fruit. In a bit, you'll all be very miserable. But don't worry, I will properly record your plaintive looks with a photographic jade. Long Chen laughed. Boss, you're too evil. You should go through tribulation with us. That's the only way it's fair, said Gu Yang. Go through tribulation with you? Long Chen laughed. If he underwent his tribulation with them, this world would no longer have a Dragonblood Legion. All right, everyone stop complaining. Prepare yourselves. You have all reached the peak of meridian opening a long time ago. If you hadn't suppressed your cultivation bases, some of you would have already broken through. After going through that baptism of blood and fire, your realms have completely stabilized. In a bit, I'll leave, and you'll all consume the heaven-advancing pills at the same time. This medicinal pill can allow you to advance perfectly to the Xiantian realm without leaving any flaw in your foundation. Once you've advanced, you'll have to face heavenly tribulation. The baptism of heavenly tribulation is now just a test to the physical body. It is also a kind of tempering to your will. When the tribulation comes down, you must take advantage of the opportunity. Use the power of the tribulation to expel the impurities in your bodies. The Xiantian realm is the true start of cultivation. It's extremely important. A flawless body will allow you to cultivate twice as fast with half the effort in the future. Alright, I won't say any more. Prepare the heaven-advancing pills. As soon as I leave, consume them. Long Chen brought Little Snow away. When Long Chen was standing at the peak of a barren mountain 100 miles away, everyone consumed their heaven-advancing pills. As soon as the pill entered their mouths, they dissolved. They felt their spiritual qi slowly rising. Everyone relaxed as best as they could, not making any movements. They simply allowed the medicinal pill to do its work. Their spiritual qi continued to rise, circulating through their bones, then their flesh, then converging in their dantians. A huge whirlpool formed in their dantians. The whirlpool began to spin faster and faster. In the end, a loud rumbling came from their bodies. Their qi, blood, tendons, bones, and meridians all reached their peak states. The rumbling grew louder, and their powerful auras exploded from their bodies. They had broken through the barrier. If it was before the Xiantian realm, they would have already advanced. But now it was different. They had to undergo the baptism of heavenly tribulation. Only after that would their spiritual qi transform from Hotian qi to Xiantian qi, and only then would they be true Xiantian experts. There were only two possibilities once you broke through the barrier. One was to succeed in withstanding the lightning tribulation, while the other was failing and being turned to dust by the tribulation. Everyone broke through at the same time. Over 300 pillars of qi soared into the sky, causing space to shake. Endless black clouds filled the sky. It's this small? Long Chen couldn't help being dumbfounded. The black clouds only covered 100 miles. Buzz! A tempest of lightning rained down, crashing down on the Dragon Blood Legion. Ah! Quite a few of them let out startled screams. They had no experience with tribulation lightning, and in this first attack, they turned numb and unable to move. What are you shouting for? This little drizzle is nothing. It's fine if you can't move. Draw the thunder force into your bodies to temper your flesh, shouted Long Chen. The panicking Dragonblood warriors immediately calmed down a great deal. This was heavenly tribulation, and it contained the might of the heavens. To say that they weren't afraid would be a lie. In front of the heavens' might, the human race was as minute as ants. But Long Chen's shout told them that he was watching from nearby, and it gave them an indescribable comfort. It was as if as long as Long Chen was present, there was nothing to fear. They hastily acted according to what he said, slowly drawing that thunder force into them to temper their bodies. They had trained in a high heaven-class cultivation technique, so their physical bodies were extremely powerful. But even so, they had to block over 90% of the thunder force outside their bodies. Some of them had been too panicked and had drawn in too much thunder force, causing them to let out miserable screams. However, in less than a minute, everyone had gotten used to it. They drew the thunder force in accordance with the strength of their physical bodies. Fuck, as expected, it really is different. This counts as heavenly tribulation? How discriminatory. Long Chen had never felt that heavenly tribulation could be so gentle. The heavenly tribulation was coming down gently and slowly, like a maiden gently caressing their faces. But his heavenly tribulation was like an explosive magical beast attacking him with all its power. The difference was truly too great. Awu! Little Snow let out a quiet growl. Bear with it for now. Wait for them to finish, and then you can undergo your tribulation, said Long Chen. Little Snow had also sensed that his tribulation was about to come. In the past few days, he had been extremely anxious, unable to stay still. Just now, he told Long Chen his heavenly tribulation was about to arrive. Tribulations were different from magical beasts. The tribulation came first, and only then would they advance. It was the opposite of how humans advanced first and then had to face tribulation. However, Long Chen still had to keep an eye on the Dragonblood Legion as they faced their tribulation. Little Snow had to endure it for a bit longer. An incense stick's worth of time later, the black clouds in the sky began to lighten, a sign they were about to dissipate. Originally, for a meridian opening expert facing their Xiantian tribulation, the tribulation would not last more than 5 breaths' time. The reason the Dragon Blood Legion had such a long tribulation was because they had undergone it together. The lightning tribulation had been extremely gentle, never releasing any furious power on them. That allowed the Dragon Blood warriors to temper their bodies easily. The Dragon Blood warriors were now drenched. Their skin was covered in black stains that emitted a disgusting smell. Those were the impurities that had been in their bodies. Within those impurities were also pill toxins. However, the Dragon Blood warriors were all incredibly excited. They felt like their physical bodies had strengthened by over 10 times. Furthermore, their spiritual chi had already started to gradually transform from a gaseous state to a liquid state. In the future, the spiritual chi in their bodies would no longer be called spiritual chi, but spiritual yuan. Spiritual chi and spiritual yuan were qualitatively different. They were simply not on the same level. It could be said that only after undergoing their tribulation could they count as true Xiantian experts. Each wave of their hands could draw on natural energy. They felt like their whole bodies were brimming with power. Gu Yang, release your full aura to provoke the heavenly tribulation. Suddenly, a shout rang out that caused everyone to turn dumbfounded. Long Chen wanted Gu Yang to provoke the tribulation? Wasn't that just courting death? Don't hesitate. If you still don't attack, the tribulation will dissipate, shouted Long Chen. Gu Yang's face was green. To release your aura like this in a tribulation was sending yourself to your death. That was common knowledge, but he couldn't ignore Long Chen's orders. Clenching his teeth, his powerful aura soared straight into the sky. Rumble! The black clouds seemed to become furious. Heaven and earth shook. The black clouds instantly spread further than before. The previous lightning had just been the thickness of raindrops. But now, each bolt was almost a foot thick. Landing on their bodies, their skin immediately broke and blood was flowing out. Don't be afraid. Defend with your full strength. Your physical bodies still have a great room for improvement. Don't waste this chance, shouted Long Chen. As an alchemist, Long Chen could see that everyone's bodies still contained a lot of impurities. The lightning strength hadn't been strong enough, so he had no choice but to have Gu Yang provoke the tribulation. Hearing this, everyone understood his intentions. Although pain racked their bodies, they clenched their teeth, not making a sound. Gu Yang, continue, shouted Long Chen, looking up at the sky. Gu Yang threw caution to the wind, not holding back the slightest bit of his aura. Out of all the Dragon Blood warriors, his aura was the strongest. When he released it, even space would rumble. The heavenly tribulation became even more furious, the thunderbolts multiplying in thickness. Guoran was the first to not be able to hold on. Vomiting out blood, he cried, "Boss, save me!" Long Chen ignored him. He also ignored the other miserable Dragon Blood warriors whose bones and muscles were being ripped and torn apart by the lightning. He was focused on the clouds. Suddenly, the black clouds became still, and an unprecedented destructive aura spread. It's over, we're all dead. The Dragon Blood warriors immediately despaired. The heaven's fury could destroy this entire world. They would definitely die. You're scared from just this? Grow up a bit. Little Snow, cut it down. Chapter 635, 635. A huge sphere of wind blades suddenly pierced straight through the tribulation clouds. It then exploded, and a huge hole appeared in the 300-mile tribulation clouds. Only then could they all tell that it was still daytime. The Dragon Blood warriors' eyes almost popped out off their heads. Brothers, not bad. You can rest. The rest will be Little Snow's battle, said Long Chen. He patted Little Snow on the back. Heaven and earth trembled. A terrifying pressure descended from the sky. The tribulation clouds instantly healed and spread even further, covering an area of 3,000 miles. terrifying heavenly might caused all the dragon blood warriors to turn pale. Seeing this, Guoran was already lying powerlessly on the ground. Staying by Long Chen's side required a powerful heart. "Boss, are you trying to play us to death? Little Snow, let's go. The tribulation has already locked onto you." Long Chen rode on Little Snow's back as Little Snow turned into a bolt of white lightning, speeding into the distance. At the same time, the tribulation clouds chased after them, bringing down boundless pressure. Countless thunderbolts were surging within the clouds. That pressure made it so even breathing was difficult. The power of this lightning was too terrifying. "What is going on?" Li Qi struggled up from the ground, looking in the direction where Long Chen had gone with horror. "Boss is bringing the tribulation away. Is he also planning on advancing?" Gu Yang struggled up, his whole body covered with blood. "Will Boss be all right?" asked Song Mingyuan. The Dragon Blood Legion no longer called Long Chen Senior Apprentice Brother, nor did they call him Legion Commander. Instead, they all called him Boss. That appellation was a bit roguish, but it also gave them a greater feeling of closeness. Another reason for this appellation was because Long Chen's character was simply not at all like a standard commander. So calling him Boss was felt to be much more suitable by everyone. "Your worries are all for nothing. Who do you think Boss is? What danger would befall him? Those who can stand, help me up. I feel like the lightning almost turned me to mush." Guoran needed help in order to stand. There was no way around it, as he was the person with the weakest physical body here, even weaker than the women. His injuries were the heaviest. "Let's go see what Boss is doing." With everyone supporting each other, they all got up. Although their injuries were heavy, there was no way for them to heal with their minds at peace. They had to go and see what was happening. After getting over a high mountain, they saw the scene clearly. They were all dumbfounded. Thousands of miles away, the entire area had become a sea of lightning. They couldn't even see Long Chen or Little Snow's figures. Ah! Suddenly, one of the Dragon Blood warriors held his head and screamed. Guoran harshly chided, "Fool, that lightning tribulation is so terrifying, but you still used your spiritual strength to probe it. You really don't want your life anymore." That warrior's spiritual strength was exceptionally strong. He had wanted to use his divine sense to investigate what was happening in the lightning sea. As a result, his spiritual energy had only just touched the lightning region when it was forced back, his soul almost tearing apart. "I just worry about Boss." He clenched his head, his face pale. He really had almost died. "I've already said that Boss isn't someone we need to worry about. If you want to worry, worry about yourselves. Sit down, take your medicine and heal. As long as the lightning continues, we know Boss is still there and alive. There's no need to worry." After saying that, Guoran consumed a healing pill. He felt like his body was about to fall apart. The others also hastily sat and consumed healing pills, keeping one eye on the endless lightning sea. Although it was thousands of miles away, they could all sense how terrifying that lightning was. It was practically apocalyptical. The tribulation is shrinking. It should be about to end. "I can see Boss and Little Snow. Heavens, have my eyes broken?" They were shocked to see Little Snow facing the lightning tribulation in the sky. His hair was standing on end, and he roared furiously. The lightning crashing down on his body was unable to harm him in the slightest. As for Long Chen, he was sitting on the ground not far away and sipping tea from a cup. That leisurely appearance made all of them flabbergasted. Every streak of those thunderbolts would pose immense danger to each of the Dragon Blood warriors. But to Long Chen and Little Snow, they were like a light drizzle. This was just the first wave of Little Snow's tribulation, the weakest wave. Long Chen and Little Snow could essentially ignore it. Just now, when Long Chen had been ordering everyone, he had shouted so much that his throat had gotten sore. Now was the perfect time to moisten his throat. He hadn't expected the Dragon Blood Legion to see this. He hastily swallowed all the queen bee honey in his cup and threw the cup away, looking seriously at the tribulation clouds in the sky. "Is it really unable to sense my presence?" Long Chen was a bit bewildered. He had already made his preparations to undergo this tribulation with Little Snow. Last time, when he had interfered with Little Snow's tribulation, the heavenly tribulation had immediately grown more powerful and attacked him. But this time, the heavenly tribulation seemed to not be able to see him. All the power was focused on Little Snow. He was merely affected by some residual waves that made him sink into thought. Could the heavenly Daos also be hoodwinked? Otherwise, how could they not notice him? Or could it be that as long as he didn't bring out his full strength, they wouldn't notice him? Suddenly, the sea of lightning disappeared. The clouds roiled, and huge balls of lightning fell like meteorites. Each one of them was dozens of meters thick, smashing toward Little Snow and Long Chen. Seeing this scene, all the Dragonblood warriors' hearts clenched. How was this a baptism? This was clearly trying to exterminate them. Compared to Little Snow's tribulation, their own tribulation had been nothing. Any of these lightning balls could exterminate them in body and soul. Little Snow roared, shooting out a huge wind blade. Huge explosions erupted whenever that wind blade met a lightning ball. These lightning balls were different from the previous lightning. The energy within them was even more berserk and filled with a destructive aura. Little Snow had no choice but to dodge and block them. Long Chen didn't have to do that though. When those lightning balls landed on his body, they exploded. Their powerful thunder force merely caused his body to feel a bit numb. He smiled slightly. His previous lightning tribulations really hadn't been for nothing. He had an extremely high resistance toward lightning now. Lightning runes bored into his body, wreaking havoc. But then the lightning snake tattoo on his arm lit up, and those runes were all instantly devoured. Hey, don't get agitated. This kind of thunder force isn't even a snack for you. Long Chen rubbed the tattoo. It had an urge to charge out and devour all of those lightning spheres. Previously, the lightning serpent had absorbed the lightning monster's rune and fallen into a slumber. During that period, Long Chen was only able to borrow a slight amount of its power for some attacks. Recently, it had woken, but Long Chen still hadn't used it, instead reserving it as a trump card. The current lightning serpent was filled with a destructive aura. Having absorbed that huge lightning rune, it had undergone a large transformation. Not only had it grown stronger, but its intelligence had also grown. It could directly express its emotions to Long Chen. Just now, it had been about to charge out and gorge itself. But Long Chen had stopped it. The lightning serpent really wasn't picky about its food, however, this level of lightning was unable to give it any benefits. Little Snow's tribulation was terrifying, but it was still greatly lacking compared to Long Chen's previous tribulation. Perhaps it was because Little Snow's constitution wasn't very powerful, so the lightning's strength also wasn't so high. Don't worry, you'll quickly get an enormous feast, comforted Long Chen. Rumbling filled the air. The endless lightning balls continued to fall for an incense stick's worth of time before finally stopping. In the end, Little Snow was covered with blood. Little Snow's strengths were his attack and speed, and his defense was his weak point. So, although Long Chen could ignore this level of lightning, he couldn't. However, Long Chen still had Little Snow endure it, hoping Little Snow could continue until the limit of his physical body. Although this heavenly tribulation was entirely destructive, it was also a kind of trial. It wasn't something that only targeted the physical body. If that had been the case, then Long Chen would have directly used his thunder force to help temper Little Snow. The most important aspect was the will of the heavenly Daos contained in the tribulation. Only if you were capable of resisting that could you count as a true expert. This was a trial for the will. This kind of tempering was even more precious than the tempering of the physical body. Many people might not be afraid of death, but in the face of heavenly tribulation, they all felt terror from the depths of their souls. If you wanted to cultivate, you had to control that innate terror. Only by enduring this kind of trial could you truly fight fearlessly in battles. Boom! In the sky, all the tribulation clouds gathered together and disappeared. The only thing remaining was a huge lightning monster that charged at Little Snow. All right, you can have that, fellow. The lightning tattoo on Long Chen's arm lit up and a ray of light shot out. 1,000-meter lightning python shot over. Chapter 636. Boom! The two enormous bodies collided, filling the sky with blinding light. Suddenly, the lightning serpent released a heaven-shaking roar as it underwent a fierce battle with the lightning monster. The lightning monster was even larger than the lightning serpent. It had originally been charging straight at Little Snow. But being blocked by the lightning serpent, it was unable to charge through. The lightning serpent opened its mouth and ferociously bit the lightning monster, forcibly tearing a part of its flesh away. That wasn't truly flesh. Its body was made of countless lightning runes. After swallowing those runes, the lightning serpent became even more excited and battled even more ferociously. The lightning monster didn't seem to have any intelligence. It simply crazily tried to charge past to get to Little Snow, not attacking the lightning serpent. However, the lightning serpent blocked it, taking bites out of it with great zeal. Little Snow, fall back. Don't let the lightning monster attack you. The lightning serpent still wasn't a match for this lightning monster, and it was unable to fully block it. However, the lightning monster didn't attack the lightning serpent. It seemed as if its unconscious mind told it that it couldn't attack an existence similar to it. Of course, the lightning serpent didn't have that thought. It was like a starving beast that had finally encountered a mountain of meat, and it was crazily devouring the lightning monster. Each time it swallowed a portion of the lightning monster's body, its own body would grow. As its body grew, its aura was also becoming stronger. Heavens, when did Boss raise such a terrifying house pet? Goran and the others were all stupefied. They were filled with shock as they looked at the huge lightning serpent. The lightning serpent crazily devoured the lightning monster, constantly strengthening itself. In just a few breaths, the lightning monster actually began to shrink. As for the lightning serpent, it went from 1,000 meters long to 1,500 meters. Furthermore, 2 protrusions grew out of its head. The lightning serpent was transforming into a lightning python. Legends said that after a millennium of cultivation, a serpent could become a python could become a drake, and a drake could become a dragon. As for the difference between the serpent and the python, it was based on the 2 protrusions coming out of the head. Those 2 protrusions, if the python ever managed to become a dragon, would grow into horns. Otherwise, no matter how big a serpent became, it would always just be a large serpent. It would not be called a python. Now that the lightning serpent had become a lightning python, Long Chen's heart shook. Could it be that the lightning python could later transform into a lightning drake and then into a lightning dragon? If that was possible, then wouldn't it also be possible for the flame serpent? If he properly raised them, then in the future, he wouldn't even need to do anything. He could just summon 2 huge dragons to oppress all his opponents. If he could become a mighty dragon tamer in the future, flying on dragons through the sky, causing the entire world to tremble before him, just who could oppose him? Suddenly, a loud explosion rang out. The huge lightning monster was completely entangled with the lightning python. It was unable to resist, while the lightning python continuously grew larger from consuming it. Eventually, the lightning python grew so much stronger that the lightning monster wasn't even able to resist anymore, and it was completely devoured. After swallowing the last bit of it, the lightning python grew to a length of 2,500 meters. A fierce pressure came from it as it swam in the air for a few circles before turning into a bolt of lightning that returned to Long Chen's arm. The tattoo on his arm had also transformed, looking the same as the lightning python. Long Chen looked up and saw that the tribulation clouds had already scattered. Little Snow's tribulation had ended. It ended just like this? Long Chen was a bit bewildered. How could the lightning tribulation go by so easily this time? Suddenly, he had a thought. Could it be that by concealing his cultivation base, the tribulation had been tricked? But how was that possible? Wasn't it said that the heavenly Daos could not be tricked? Any smokescreens were complete jokes in front of the heavenly Daos. However, if the tribulation had sensed his cultivation base, it shouldn't have ended so easily. It should have fiercely attacked him. Was it the primal chaos bead? Long Chun pondered it for a long moment. He had kept his cultivation base at the mid-meridian opening realm the entire time. In other words, his cultivation base had been lower than Little Snow's. So then, had the heavenly Daos missed him because of that? Other than that, he also hadn't personally interfered with the lightning tribulation. It was the lightning python that had helped Little Snow in the end. Was it that the tribulation still had familiar feelings toward the lightning python? The lightning monster had only defended the entire time without counterattacking. The only thing in its eyes had been Little Snow, which was the only reason it had been devoured so easily. Could it be that the heavenly Daos themselves were merely a set of laws, and there were also ways to cheat them? Long Chun seemed to have understood something. "Boss, are you all right?" Gua ran and the others ran over in panic. What could be wrong? Wasn't it just a nice bath?" laughed Long Chun. Long Chun returned Little Snow to his spiritual space, allowing him to rest. Although Little Snow had suffered injuries from this tribulation, they weren't very serious. Once Little Snow recovered, he would naturally enter the Xiantian realm, becoming a terrifying 6th-rank magical beast. "How do you all feel?" asked Long Chun. "I feel too terrified. That lightning tribulation was practically apocalyptical," said Gu Yang with a shuddering voice. The others all felt the same. Little Snow's tribulation had been too terrifying. "I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about your bodies. Last time, I used medicine to help you expel some of the toxins in your bodies. Now, the heavenly tribulation helped you expel them another time. Your bodies should have reached an almost flawless point. That creates a practically perfect foundation for you all. Starting now, you'll all start on a completely brand new journey. The Xiantian realm is the start of a whole new cultivation path. It's the same as the Houtian's Qi condensation realm. The foundation is extremely important. I trust that after today, all of you will advance by leaps and bounds on your cultivation paths." Long Chun cupped his fists toward them. Seeing them all advance perfectly, he was even more excited than them. "It's all because of Boss's patronage." Gua Ran solemnly sucked up. "Scram. This bootlicking of yours is too disgraceful," cursed Long Chun. Everyone laughed heartily as they were all filled with emotion. They had finally reached the Xiantian realm. Furthermore, they were Xiantian experts with limitless potential, and that had all been given to them by Long Chun. Before they had encountered Long Chun, they had viewed the Xiantian realm as a lifelong goal. There were even some who would have been completely satisfied if they could reach Meridian Opening. But now, they found that the Xiantian realm was just the start. Long Chun would lead them to even greater heights, allowing them to see a wider sky for themselves. If you want to shout to release your emotions, go ahead. Otherwise, you might stifle yourselves to death. Long Chun laughed. "Haha, I've finally become a Xiantian expert. Let me see just who dares still look down on me. Fuck, now that I've become a Xiantian expert, I've finally brought honor to my ancestors. It's already been several centuries since a Xiantian expert has appeared in my family. I'm going to get stronger, so strong that I become the head of the entire Xiantian super monastery. The head of the entire world. The dash. Brother, you've gone too far. With boss present, you can't become the head." One of them cut off that brother's cry. Oh, boss, I was wrong. Apologize that fellow." Long Chun laughed. He could understand these fellows' emotions. The delight of having one's strength explosively grow was truly amazing. "Alright, I'm glad you're all happy. I don't want to give you all a blow, but the Xiantian realm is just a beginning. Don't get too conceited. Although you've all advanced, your Houtian Qi has only just transformed into Xiantian Qi. You'll still need some time to get used to your new power. We gained many Xiantian weapons recently, but those weapons all possess an evil air that isn't suitable for you. But don't get discouraged because Gua Ran had already prepared weapons for you. Just go get them from him once we get back. However, this situation came a bit too suddenly, And Guoran has many other things to do, so the only available weapons are sabers, swords, spears, and staves, the main most common weapons. Use those for now, and later you can find more suitable Xiantian weapons. Guoran often forged Xiantian weapons as practice. However, when it came to carving runes, his skills were still extremely lacking. The ethereal crafting secret record was too high level and was too difficult to comprehend. For now, he could only use ordinary runes. Although these Xiantian weapons weren't crafted so well, the material used to make them was top-notch. Their hardness far surpassed ordinary Xiantian weapons. As for the corrupt paths weapons, the majority all had disgusting runes to absorb blood, refine souls, and other sinister things. Their weapons were too evil and not suitable for righteous experts to use. The weapons they had gained from the corrupt path would essentially all be tossed into the furnace to be smelted for their materials. Everyone, consume these aura-concealing pills. That way, your auras will still seem to be at the late meridian opening realm. As long as you don't release your aura, no one will be able to sense your true cultivation bases. Long Chen distributed the medicinal pills. This way, when they returned to the mining site, it wouldn't cause too many waves. Otherwise, seeing that over 300 people had advanced to the Xiantian realm would be too shocking. Boss, have you also consumed an aura-concealing pill? Guoran asked suddenly. They had all noticed that even after all this time, Long Chen's aura still remained in the mid-meridian opening realm. Now seeing the aura-concealing pills, they came to a sudden comprehension. You know too much. Long Chen winked. They all suddenly realized that Long Chen had definitely concealed his own cultivation base. But why would he do that? When Long Chen led them back to the mining site, Zhou Kuan had already awoken. But his face was still pale, as if his blood had been sucked by a leech. Long Chen, how brazen! How could you take people away from the mines without reporting it? Do you not place this district chief in your eyes? Roared Zhou Kuan furiously. I will be translating the term, as Drake, as opposed to what you may have previously seen as Flood Dragon or perhaps Rain Dragon. Chapter 637, 637. After Zhou Kuan had woken up, he had felt like his head was splitting apart. It was only after asking the Zhou family's elder that he learned what had happened. He really had never imagined that it was Meng Qi who had saved him. He had only just gone to express his thanks when he heard that Long Chen had led his people away, leaving behind only Meng Qi and Tang Wana. He had almost died from terror at that time. He had thought Long Chen had run off. If that had happened, then all their plans would have been for naught, and he would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. Now hearing that Long Chen had returned, he immediately rushed out, seeing Long Chen and the Dragonblood warriors all in high spirits, as if they had just gone for a leisurely stroll. Sorry, I really don't place a maggot in my eyes. And what exactly is a district maggot? A very long maggot? Asked Long Chen. The Dragonblood warriors might be accustomed to Long Chen's character, but they still couldn't hold back a chuckle, especially seeing Zhou Kuan's expression. Long Chen, you're too arrogant, roared Zhou Kuan. It's not like I've only been arrogant for 1 or 2 days. There's no need to shout so loudly. You'll get used to it. Also, we've gotten tired of playing around. It's already noon, so we won't hold you back from your lunch. Go and find your food. We're going to rest. Long Chen waved his hand, and everyone entered their tents. However, he ended up saying food extremely unclearly, as if he had a lisp. Somehow, it ended up sounding a mix between food and crap. Well, in any case, he could eat whatever he wanted. Zhou Kuan was indescribably infuriated, but he didn't dare attack. He forced down his anger. At the very least, Long Chen had returned. Long Chen, this is the Xiantian Dao Sex mining site. You should take your mission more seriously. I won't say anything about it this time, but next time, you definitely have to tell me before you leave. Other than that, thank Miss Meng Qi for me. Long Chen didn't turn back. Don't be so courteous. Meng Qi is too soft-hearted. Even seeing brutes like pigs and dogs in danger, she'll still go save them. Although you aren't as good as them, if you did die, you'd cause a stink. That wouldn't be good. We were only thinking of ourselves. Seeing Long Chen's figure disappear into a tent, Zhou Kuan's face alternated from dark to white. Suddenly, he vomited a mouthful of blood and fell. The experts following him all let out startled cries and went to support him. They found that he had already fainted from rage. Returning to his own tent, he found that Meng Qi was still in seclusion, while Tang Wan'er was guarding her. Tang Wan'er had already fully recovered. Therefore, Meng Qi could focus all her attention on absorbing the heavenly Dao fruit. Long Chen didn't disturb them, and he set up his own tent nearby. Due to the large battle previously, they were only able to set up temporary tents. Long Chen had all the Dragonblood warriors enter seclusion. He also didn't allow Zhou Kuan to dig out the mines. He had the mines just stay buried, because then there was no mining, and there was no need to guard them. To dig out all the ground that had buried the mines was an extremely difficult matter and very time-consuming. This action of his ended up causing Zhou Kuan to stumble. He wanted to take the black gold ore for himself, but Long Chen wouldn't let him. Those ores were for Xiantian weapons, and ordinary spatial rings were unable to store them because they were too heavy. As a result, the ore would all be left just above the mine after it was dug up. The Dao sect would send experts to transport the ore back every few hundred years. Zhou Kuan wanted to take that ore for himself, while Long Chen also wanted to take the ore. That was money, and he was lacking that right now. So Long Chen didn't touch the ore, and he also didn't allow the Zhou family to touch the ore. If they wanted to move the ore, they needed to use carts. But Long Chen didn't need to do that. He could directly send them into the primal chaos space. Unfortunately, even if they dug up the mines, Long Chen wouldn't dare take the ore right now. So it was best to just leave them underground and have them peacefully wait for the day he took them. Long Chen also entered seclusion. But he wasn't doing it to cultivate. He no longer needed to cultivate. After advancing to meridian opening, the accumulated energy of the bone-tempering pills had caused his cultivation base to rapidly advance. He was the same as the other Dragonblood warriors, but he had consumed hundreds of times the bone-tempering pills that they had, so he had accumulated even more medicinal energy. The reason the Dragonblood warriors' cultivation bases had advanced so explosively was because they had accumulated too much medicinal energy. Not only had they fully tempered their bones, but in the meridian opening realm, that energy had erupted a second time, almost bringing them directly to the Xiantian realm. Long Chen was pretty much the same. He had advanced even faster, but the difference was that he had experienced several immense battles during that time, so no flaw had appeared in his foundation. Right now, he was just patiently waiting. He was waiting for the Dragonblood warriors to completely steady their cultivation bases, and he was waiting for enemies to arrive. 7 days later, Meng Qi finally came out. Long Chen was delighted to see that Meng Qi had also become a celestial. That meant the heavenly Dao fruits really were 100% effective on anyone that wasn't him. In other words, as long as he had enough heavenly Dao fruits, he really could create a terrifying army of celestials. Furthermore, he found that Meng Qi was the same as Tang Wan'er, and even after summoning her cry of the heavenly Daos, he didn't feel any expulsion. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were now both at the peak of meridian opening, but the two of them were still a bit away from their tribulations. The thing that made Long Chen speechless was that they actually knew what day their tribulations would come. Celestials could clearly feel what day their tribulations would come. The heavens truly treated them well. During this time, Long Chen was extremely relaxed. He laughed and talked with these two beauties cheerfully. But after another few days, he suddenly frowned. What is it? Seeing Long Chen's laughter suddenly pause halfway, Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were startled. Our enemies have already come. I can feel an extremely great pressure, said Long Chen solemnly. Meng Qi was flabbergasted. She looked at Tang Wan'er, and seeing Tang Wan'er half leaning on his body, her chest on Long Chen's arm, it did seem like the pressure wasn't little. Scoundrel, you're once more acting immorally. Tang Wan'er viciously pinched him. I'm being serious, cried Long Chen. It'd be strange if anyone believed you, said Tang Wan'er. Long Chen was speechless. He had gotten so used to teasing Tangwana that now that he told the truth, she treated it as a joke. He truly sensed a fierce hostility. That feeling should mean there were experts spying on them from a distance. As his cultivation base grew, and since he had condensed the third star, his spiritual perception continued to grow sharper. He could easily sense hostility. In the past few days, he had sensed hostility as well, and it had clearly been from several different people. Long Chen, are you being serious? You aren't joking? Finally, seeing how solemn Long Chen appeared, Tang Wan'er's confidence flagged. I really am being serious, said Long Chen. Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er were startled, but then Long Chen continued with, seriously joking. You bastard, I just knew you were a rotten egg. Tang Wan'er charged forward, reached toward his throat. Long Chen leaned back, and Tang Wan'er ended up not reacting in time, immediately charging into Long Chen's embrace. You female rogue. Hurry and release me. I won't submit to you. Long Chen cried as he struggled to free himself from Tang Wan'er, but no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to escape from her. He pushed against different parts of her body, trying to find the right spot to push her off. Ah! Tang Wan'er suddenly screamed as Long Chen's roving hands had touched one of her sensitive places, and she hastily jumped out from Long Chen's embrace, her face as red as an apple, a trace of panic in her eyes. Even once Tang Wan'er had leaped off, Long Chen seemed to be unaware. His eyes were closed, and he continued to flail, continuously repeating, I would rather die than give you my purity. Meng Qi shook her head and sighed. How many times have I told you, fighting with Long Chen will always cause you to lose. Boom! Tang Wan'er was just about to reply when heaven and earth violently trembled. A bizarre pressure suddenly filled the entire mining site. Long Chen hastily left his tent. He saw a blue dome of light had appeared in the sky, covering the entire mining region. In fact, even Chaos City seemed to be covered by it. What is it? Cried Tang Wan'er. A formation. It has sealed off the entire Chaos region. They've caught us. Long Chen narrowed his eyes at the blue light curtain. The corrupt path had truly invested a great deal in this. Activating such a terrifying formation cost a great deal of money. Looks like they treat us as a must-have, sighed Meng Qi. This formation's range was so wide, and its power was incomparably terrifying. That must have cost an ocean's worth of resources. Don't worry, I would rather die than give my pure body to them. Long Chen clenched his fists. Dislikeable. Even at this time, you're still not serious, rebuked Meng Qi. Long Chen never forgot to joke, no matter what time it was. Why must I be serious? They don't have the strength. Now we're already strong enough, so why do we have to be afraid of them? Laughed Long Chen. That's true. We have 2 celestials, and each of the Dragon Blood warriors has advanced to the Xiantian realm. There's also you. We definitely are already extremely powerful. Tang Wan'er was full of battle intent. It seemed she was also very warlike inside. All the Dragon Blood warriors gathered. Not one of them was panicked or afraid, which made Long Chen nod. After the tempering of the heavenly tribulation, their Tao hearts had become as stable as boulders. Boom! Suddenly, a tide of people charged through the formation. Chapter 638. Enemy Attack. A fierce cry rang out. The tide-like corrupt experts were all in black robes. Anyone that was in their path was immediately killed, their blood flying through the air. It was unknown just how many of them there were. With their sharp blades, they killed any righteous experts they ran into. Whether they were miners, disciples, or guards, they were indiscriminately killed. The corrupt experts were like a mass of fiends, their crazy laughter filling the air. Miserable screams and the sinister laughter from the corrupt experts alternated. Although it was daytime, people felt a chill as if they had stepped into hell on earth. What are they doing? Do they want to kill all the righteous experts? Meng Qi watched this scene with horror. It seems so. They've completely sealed this region. Even Chaos City is included. That means they're already prepared to kill everyone from the righteous path here. Right now, this place is a huge prison and they're hunting. Long Chen curled his lips. Have they gone crazy? They're going back on the agreement between the righteous and corrupt paths? Asked Guyang. Teach, what are agreements? That agreement was just some senseless game they came up with when they were both injured and powerless. Back then, they thought Phoenix Blood Black Gold might appear here. As a result, both paths' core strengths ended up injured, and they had no choice but to make an agreement. But now that all the black gold ore has been almost mined away and not the slightest bit of the Phoenix Blood Black Gold has been found, this place has little value to them. Now, it's simply time for them to squeeze the final bit of profit out from here. The corrupt path will kill any members of the righteous path and then take away the last batch of ore. As long as they leave no living witnesses who will come out to testify that it was done by the corrupt path. The current corrupt path has also learned from the righteous path to play the game of evidence. Hee, they both are truly ridiculous, sneered Long Chen. Everyone turned cold. If it really was like this, then these corrupt experts would not stop until they were all concentrated on Xiantiandao Sec's mining site. Boss, should we break out of their encirclement? Asked Guoran. Break out of their encirclement? Don't you see their huge formation? It's only there because they refuse to allow us to do that. Do you think the corrupt path is only full of idiots? Long Chen was somewhat speechless. Even the smart Guoran had become a fool now. The Xiantiandao Sec's experts and miners were all standing there in horror, looking in the distance. Many of them were already completely filled with despair. They knew that they really were doomed today. However, Zhou Kun was standing at the front, looking icily at Long Chen and the others. There was a faint pleased smile on his face. Boss, what should we do? Should we go save them? Each one of them is an extra bit of strength. Gu Yang looked at the righteous disciples fleeing from the corrupt path. The corrupt path had sent an incredible number of people. They numbered in the tens of thousands. Obviously, they had made their determination not to let a single person escape. Tens of thousands of Xiantian experts with quite a few being half-step C expansion. That power was truly shocking. Do you really think they'd stand by your side to face our enemies? Have you forgotten how those people sneered at us in Chaos City? Did you forget how when we were attacked, countless idiots merely used photographic jades to record the excitement? If we pulled such people onto our side, they wouldn't be able to help us at all. On the other hand, we'd have to worry about them stabbing us in the back, said Long Chen. Now that they thought about it, that was definitely true. These selfish, apathetic people would only cause their total power to drop if they joined. In the distance, Chaos City was in complete chaos. Countless screams rang out. The corrupt experts gradually moved in from the outer region, sweeping through the mining region. They killed anyone they saw. Brothers, make your preparations. Warm up a bit. In a bit we'll have a fierce battle. Remember our previous battle against the corrupt path from back in the 108th monastery. At that time, we still had so many brothers. But afterward, many of our brothers ended up lost forever. Now those idiots from the corrupt path have come again. They want to take more of our brothers from us. Tell me, what should we do? Shouted Long Chen. Kill! 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 The Dragonblood warriors had all followed Long Chen since the 108th monastery. Many of their close brothers had been killed by the corrupt path. Thinking of those brothers who had died so miserably by their side, their eyes turned scarlet. It was as if that tragic scene had occurred only yesterday. That kind of pain could never be forgotten. The Dragonblood Legion's roars rang out louder and louder. Their fury seemed like it could ignite the air. Seeing that, Zhou Kun sneered. In the face of absolute power, anything was useless. Those corrupt experts were like a huge wave surging over here. As their circle shrunk, their power grew more concentrated. Every single one of them would reach the Xiantiandao Sec's mining region in less than an hour. However, none of them approached. They all stopped 1,000 miles away, completely surrounding them. At this distance, Long Chen could see that these Xiantian experts were all very young. Most likely, none of them had reached their 30s. Long Chen instantly understood that the corrupt path was using this as a chance to temper their elite disciples. Slaughter was the fastest way to cultivate for corrupt experts. It seemed their operation today was to be extremely profitable. Suddenly, their encirclement opened, and a group of 8 people walked out. Seeing those 8 people, the corrupt experts immediately let out a heaven-shaking cheer. There were 7 men and 1 bewitching woman. Her aura was exceptionally powerful. As she walked, her aura seemed to cause the entire space to tremble, making people feel endless terror. Celestials? And 8 of them? They really look favorably on me. Long Chen laughed. 8 celestials had appeared at the same time. The Shintian Dao sect's disciples all felt like it was hard to breathe, and even their bodies quivered uncontrollably. But the Dragonblood warriors didn't feel any fear. The intimidating pressure of celestials did not affect them. When they had undergone their tribulations, even that heavenly fury hadn't been able to do anything to them. This little bit of pressure was nothing. At the same time, they realized why Long Chen had had them infuriate the heavenly tribulation to temper them. It wasn't just to temper their bodies, but also their souls. Ordinary people wouldn't even be able to summon up the courage to fight celestials. But they were able to resist that suffocating aura. That was the difference. Seeing these 8 people, Zhou Kuan suddenly laughed, startling everyone. Zhou Kuan actually walked over to their side and said to Long Chen, "Long Chen, today you'll definitely die." Zhou Kuan's actions caused everyone to be flabbergasted. Even the corrupt disciples were dumbfounded. Long Chen indifferently looked at him. "No way? Your Zhou family was so brazen as to collude with the corrupt path? If news of that gets out, wouldn't your entire Zhou family be expelled from the Shintian Dao sect? If it gets out? How would that happen? Today, not one of you should even think about leaving alive. So what if my Zhou family colluded with the corrupt path? Long Chen, today you'll definitely die. Even if you grow wings, this grand formation won't let you escape," sneered Zhou Kuan. "Zhou Kuan, do you understand that your actions today are equivalent to betraying the entire righteous path? Do you really have no qualms?" asked Long Chen. "Betraying the righteous path? Just because you say it, it won't make it true. Pill Valley is the true ruler of this world, and the Pill Tower is the commander. With the support of the Pill Tower, who would my Zhou family be afraid of? You'll soon die, so I don't mind telling you. Did you think it was only my Zhou family that contributed to sending you here? The other 3 families also received benefits from the Pill Tower. Otherwise, why would the Shui family simply allow you to jump into a clear trap? Did you think the Shui family are all good people? Keep dreaming. Shui Wuhan's grace toward you is useless. She doesn't control the Shui family. In fact, many in the Shui family find Shui Wuhan unlikable." "How is your heart cold now?" Zhou Kuan smiled icily at Long Chen, extremely pleased with himself. Long Chen was also smiling. This fellow's words were extremely important. He had long since secretly activated a photographic jade just for this. Although his words couldn't count as direct proof for the entire Zhou family, it was enough. As long as he transmitted these images out, whether it was the Zhou family or the Pill Tower, they would all have to pay their price. That was especially true of the Pill Tower. Last time, in the Jiuli secret realm, Huo Wufang had ordered the experts of both paths to attack Long Chen. That was a grave crime, and they had been denounced by countless righteous experts. The righteous experts weren't the strongest, but their stern declarations and fierce criticizations brought a great deal of pressure to the Pill Tower. It was unknown how many benefits the Pill Tower had been forced to spit out in order to appease everyone. They were lucky that the fiercest criticizers were not from the large sects, so they didn't lose too much money before the matter ended. However, not long after that, the Huayan sect's bone-tempering pills had appeared, and the matter of their fake pills caused huge waves. That huge turbulence had made it so that the Hua family hadn't been able to catch a breath for a long time. It was only months later that they managed to discuss this topic with Long Chen. As a result, Long Chen hadn't given them any face, directly provoking the Hua family. As a result, they had decided Long Chen had to die, or the Hua family's prestige would truly drop to the ground. What are you still waiting for? Kill Long Chen. Zhou Kuan waved his hand, his meaning that the 8 of them should attack. Blood flew. A scorpion tail whip pierced straight through Zhou Kuan's chest. Chapter 639. A dark red whip pierced through Zhou Kuan's back and came out of his chest. Zhou Kuan was bewildered. He started to turn back to see who had attacked him. But a powerful force surged through the whip, and he didn't even have a chance to make a sound before exploding into a bloody mist. Who is this idiot? The woman in the group of 8 slowly withdrew her whip. He should be the person to receive us. It seems he didn't have the slightest use, but he still dared to order us around. The righteous path really is full of idiots, said one of the Celestials indifferently. Zhou Kuan's death horrified the elder from the Zhou family. You? How could you kill your own people? Our own people? Who do you think you are to be called that? Kill yourself, said the woman. What horrified everyone was that as soon as she said that, the elder from the Zhou family took out his sword and cut off his own head without hesitation. His blood splattered over the people around him. This Zhou family elder was clearly a late Xiantian expert, but a single word from this woman had caused him to kill himself. Was she a devil? What terrifying soul arts! Long Chen was also shocked. He hadn't seen the woman use any techniques. But with just a look, she instantly controlled the elder's mind, causing him to kill himself without hesitation. She was definitely terrifying. If the Dragon Blood Legion was forced to face her, it would be troublesome. Although the Dragon Blood warriors all had stable wills, this woman's soul energy was too terrifying. Once she used her spiritual attacks, they wouldn't be able to resist. That made Long Chen's heart sink. He had to kill this woman immediately, or the Dragon Blood warriors would instantly die at her hands. It's a possession, whispered Meng Qi. She had sensed that this woman's body didn't perfectly match her soul. A powerful expert's soul had clearly seized her body. That expert's spiritual strength might be powerful, but it hadn't reached the point where Meng Qi was terrified. It was just that the expert's control over her spiritual strength had reached a practically perfect level. Meng Qi was also an expert at controlling the soul. To have this level of control, this woman's body definitely contained an old monster who had lived for an unknown number of years. Leave this person to me, said Meng Qi confidently. She could see the worry in his eyes. Are you sure? Don't worry. Although I can't say that I can definitely beat her, I guarantee I won't lose. Long Chen nodded. Meng Qi's control over her spiritual strength was something he would never be able to catch up to. There was no one better than Meng Qi to handle this woman. You are Long Chen. That woman suddenly turned toward Long Chen, sizing him up. Guilty as charged. She frowned slightly. Only in the mid-meridian opening realm. Those old fellows really made a huge deal out of nothing. Just for someone like you, they made all of us come. Their brains must have been eaten by worms. I hear you once managed to defeat a celestial? Your information is very accurate, replied Long Chen. The woman looked up and down at him, and then shook her head. I have no interest in this weakling. Who wants him? The woman looked at the other celestials. She was clearly their leader. The others also frowned slightly at Long Chen. Obviously, they also disdained to attack him. Fine, I'll do it. I'm not picky about my food. Suddenly, an extremely wizened man walked out. He looked like he was skin and bones, as if a light breeze would make him topple over. But Long Chen knew that many of the corrupt experts were this thin. This was actually a kind of secret technique to condense the power of the flesh within the bones. That made their bones even harder than Xiantian weapons. Furthermore, this person's sinister aura gave off boundless pressure. With each step, the ground trembled. Tell everyone that when the battle starts, they're to do their best to break out of the enclosure and get some distance from the battlefield, Long Chen whispered into Meng Qi's ear. He had Meng Qi send spiritual messages to everyone. He then walked toward the wizened celestial. I hear you have a female celestial here? Once I kill you, I'll go meet her. The wizened man sneered and then shot toward Long Chen. The wizened man's punch caused a loud rumbling, like a hammer was smashing the ground. His fist was covered in blood-red runes, and Long Chen sensed endless resentment from them. In that instant, Long Chen understood that this fellow had used other people's life energy and resentment to condense his own special runes. This attack of his was extremely terrifying. A thunder-force-covered hand grabbed the wizened man's fist. The ground instantly split apart, causing dust to fill the air and block everyone's vision. Within that dust, people heard what sounded like something piercing through flesh. When the dust scattered, they all saw a stupefying scene. Long Chen's left hand was still clenching the wizened man's fist, but his right arm was holding a lightning spear that had pierced through the wizened man's chest. His terrifying thunder force had instantly turned all the wizened man's insides to dust. In your next life, remember not to be careless when you don't know your opponent's true strength. That will cause you to die. His lightning spear suddenly blossomed with light, and before the wizened man could even react, he was blown into a bloody mist. He was killed with one attack. Following the wizened man's death, his core runes appeared in the sky. Long Chen's spear was replaced with a blood-red saber that shattered those runes. Only once they saw those runes did the other corrupt celestials react. The wizened man had truly been killed. Long Chen rested his saber on his shoulder. His hair and robes fluttered. The current Long Chen seemed like an unsheathed divine sword, like a completely different person. "Does anyone else want to try me?" said Long Chen icily. His voice sounded like it had come from the depths of hell. The corrupt celestial's expressions completely changed. The woman's expression was exceptionally ugly. Originally, a total of 9 celestials had been part of this operation to kill Long Chen. This was actually a trial for the 9 celestials, the main point of which was to practice their cooperation. The woman was the leader of this operation. This entire plan had been made by her. Furthermore, she had the power to make it so the other celestials had to listen to her. This should have been a simple trial without any mishaps. But there had been one idiot who had been closest to the chaos region. And having arrived early, he had wanted to kill Long Chen on his own. As a result, he was slaughtered by Tang Wana. Zhou Kun had sent them the news that it was Tang Wana who had defeated the Celestial. Long Chen had merely given him a simple killing blow that had caused them to become careless toward Long Chen. As a result, this carelessness caused another Celestial to die before he even managed to summon his manifestation. "Bastard, you actually acted like the pig to kill the tiger. Everyone kill him together. We definitely can't let any more mishaps occur." The corrupt woman's eyes suddenly lit up with a demonic violet light. Long Chen felt his hair stand on end as if an invisible blade was currently stabbing toward him. Underworld Soul Thorn. Suddenly, a translucent arrow shot straight toward the corrupt woman. "There's actually a soul cultivator?" The corrupt woman had no choice but to give up her attack on Long Chen. Quickly forming hand seals, a huge shield appeared in front of her. The two spiritual techniques collided in the air. Ripples appeared in the space around them, causing the people nearby to feel an intense pain in their souls. The corrupt woman hadn't expected a terrifying soul cultivator to also be hiding here, startling and infuriating her. "This isn't a good place to fight. Let's switch locations." She snorted coldly and suddenly rushed into the distance. Obviously, she didn't want her own attacks to affect the other Celestials. She wanted to lead Meng Qi away. Coincidentally, that was also what Meng Qi wanted. As Meng Qi and the corrupt woman rushed into the distance, the Dragon Blood warriors also rushed away. They wanted to get further away from Long Chen. The others who had been standing there in shock also fled when they saw the Dragon Blood warriors take action. They hoped to take advantage of the chaos to run. But the surrounding corrupt army had completely surrounded this region. How could they possibly escape? The corrupt disciples all smiled sinisterly upon seeing the Dragon Blood warriors run. They were only in the Meridian opening realm. They were basically cabbages that they could cut down however they wanted. "Kill!" The corrupt experts roared, and their weapons shone coldly. Killing people was what they liked the most. Buzz! Suddenly, the Dragonblood warriors' auras erupted, and their terrifying Xiantian auras caused the corrupt path to be dumbfounded. Their sharp weapons slashed down. They hid their auras dash. One of the corrupt experts' horrified cry was cut off halfway as he was blown apart by sword chi. They all underwent complete tempering, or there's no way their auras would be this powerful dash. The Dragonblood warriors' weapons blew apart their enemies. These powerful Xiantian experts were like crops they harvested as they wished. They didn't have the slightest ability to resist. Having undergone complete tempering, the Dragonblood warriors had been able to kill Xiantian experts at Meridian Opening. Now that they were also Xiantian experts, they slaughtered them easily. The instant both sides collided, the corrupt path sustained huge losses, flabbergasting them. Even the Celestials were dumbfounded. Just what kind of army was this? How could they all have undergone complete tempering? Didn't only peerless geniuses have the qualifications to undergo complete tempering? 2 of you, go kill those people. The other 4, kill Long Chen. A muscular celestial shouted, and summoning his cry of the heavenly Daos, he charged at Long Chen. Chapter 640. The muscular corrupt celestial shouted coldly. 2 celestials immediately rushed toward the Dragonblood Legion. Other than the Soul Cultivator Celestial, his position was clearly the highest. Stay behind. Suddenly, wind blades filled the sky. Tang Wan'er summoned her cry of the heavenly Daos, blocking the 2 of them. Millions of wind blades surged behind her, looking like a sea of wind blades that set off her beauty. Following her hand seals, the sea of wind blades streamed toward the 2 corrupt celestials like 2 dragons. The 2 of them had never seen such heavenly Dao runes. Those runes themselves possessed attacking power and were not purely assistive runes like theirs. They shouted, erupting with their greatest power to fight with Tang Wan. Explosions rocked the land, and terrifying astral winds spread in every direction. Quick, kill him. We can't allow there to be too many casualties, or we won't be able to give an explanation. Seeing that Tang Wan was able to block both celestials, the muscular celestial's expression changed completely. A huge golden spiked club appeared in his hands, and he smashed it at Long Chen. His aura completely erupted, and endless runes swirled around him. His aura was incredibly powerful, and it seemed like space would explode from his attack. The other 3 celestials also didn't hesitate. They directly released their manifestations, attacking Long Chen. 4 against 1? You really look favorably on me. Divine Ring. A 3-colored divine ring appeared behind Long Chen. A terrifying pressure soared into the sky. When Long Chen's saber collided with the muscular celestial's club, it caused an incredibly loud explosive sound. The muscular celestial's expression changed. His arms actually felt numb from this collision, and he was forced back several meters. In terms of strength, Long Chen suppressed him. It had to be known that he was a brute force kind of cultivator. Otherwise, he wouldn't use such a heavy spiked club. He had never met someone who was his match in strength, until today. Amongst people who use spiked clubs, you're the weakest one I know, said Long Chen. Seeing that club, an even larger figure appeared in his mind. He didn't know where that fellow was nowadays. Long Chen sneered, I'll let you all see what true strength is. He gripped his saber with both hands, and all his energy poured into it. His saber slashed out like lightning. This slash not only contained his physical strength, but also his undefeatable will. It was valiant and fierce, and incomparably domineering. Boom! The 4 corrupt celestials were actually sent flying by Long Chen's attack. The weakest one of them actually tumbled to the ground, appearing extremely miserable. Guoran was currently directing the Dragonblood Legion in the battle. Although these corrupt experts were practically flooding over them, they weren't able to pose any threat to them. He was constantly paying attention to Long Chen's side. Seeing Long Chen send all his opponents flying, he felt like his blood was boiling. Brothers, do you see? Do you see our boss? Even when Celestials see him, they have to cower in terror. We can't make him look bad. Kill them all. It's not just for our own glory, but for those brothers who once battled side by side with us. They aren't dead, they are still by our side as we fight. Kill. Fighting alongside Long Chen always caused the Dragonblood warriors' blood to heat up. Along with Guo Ran's fierce shout, the Dragonblood warriors roared. Kill! Their furious roars came wave after wave, their auras growing even fiercer. They were completely unstoppable. Despite the corrupt path outnumbering them, each one of them was terrified by their killing intent. It was like they weren't facing fellow humans but death gods that had come to reap their lives. They had no emotions. They were simply fierce, domineering warriors. What they didn't know was that after undergoing that terrifying heavenly tribulation, the Dragonblood warriors hadn't just undergone a physical transformation. There was now also an arrogance within them that dared to fight even against the heavens. Cultivators all tried to comply with the heavens, trying to comprehend the heavenly Daos. Which madman would dare fight against the heavens? The sight of Long Chen practically treating heavenly tribulation as a game, not even placing the heavenly Daos in his eyes, ignoring the fury of the heavens, had been deeply imprinted in the hearts of the Dragonblood warriors. They no longer believed in the heavens. They believed in their boss. The heavens hadn't given them anything. The fact that they had gone from ordinary cultivators to unrivaled Xiantian experts was because of Long Chen. So they trusted that the path Long Chen pointed out for them was the right path. If Long Chen could fight against the heavens, then they also wouldn't hesitate to fight against the heavens with him. As a result, they unconsciously became even more domineering, and this kind of formless energy was able to defeat their opponent's confidence. It was even more terrifying than killing intent. Boom! Suddenly, Gu Yang was forced back by a corrupt expert, startling Guo Ran. He was startled to see that this elder's cultivation base was at half-step C expansion. It seemed that there were quite a few hidden elders amongst these young corrupt disciples who were there to protect them from the unexpected. Seeing how fierce the Dragonblood Legion was, they had no choice but to take action. Fourth Corps, squad leaders, kill him, shouted Guo Ran. The Dragonblood Legion was composed of 360 people. They had been split into 4 corps. The 4 corps were led by their captains, Gu Yang, Li Qi, Song Mingyuan, and Yu Zifeng. Each of them was in charge of 90 people, and every 10 people also had a squad leader. The squad leaders were stronger than the others, and under Guo Ran's orders, the 9 squad leaders of the 4th Corps immediately took out golden crossbows and shot arrows at the half-step C expansion expert. This expert had only just forced Gu Yang back when he sensed the danger. He had used his full strength just now, and he was still not recovered from his surprise that he hadn't even managed to injure Gu Yang. He was just about to attack him again to ruin the Dragonblood Legion's rhythm when his scalp turned numb. Die! 9 golden lights shot toward him, sealing any of his retreat paths. The corrupt elder was horrified to find that no matter how he dodged, he would have to take 2 arrows. As a result, in his indecision, 3 golden lights pierced through his body. The half-step C expansion expert immediately exploded. And that wasn't all. The golden arrows continued past him, cutting lines of deaths in the corrupt army. Any corrupt expert struck by the golden arrows would be killed. After all, these crossbows and arrows had been made out of treasure item fragments by Guo Ran. Although he wasted 99% of their power, treasure items were still treasure items. Even their fragments possessed such terrifying power. This was practically an earth-shattering power. Damn, this thing really is powerful. If another half-step C expansion expert appears, directly shoot them. Seeing how his inventions possessed such shocking power, Guo Ran was incomparably delighted. This felt even better than personally killing enemies. The only ones who could pose any threat to the Dragonblood Legion were half-step C expansion experts. But Guo Ran began to point them out before they even came up to attack. They were quickly killed under Guo Ran's orders. The Dragonblood Legion was like tigers with wings, charging their way through the corrupt army. Corpses began to pile up. In the distance, an illusory figure had appeared behind Meng Qi. That illusory figure was made of countless heavenly Tao runes, and her terrifying spiritual strength caused the space around her to twist. The corrupt soul cultivator had also summoned her cry of the heavenly Taos. At the same time, her whip cracked through the air rapidly. The whip was actually a rare soul item. But Meng Qi was surrounded by golden petals and needles. That was the soul item Guoran had used all his sweat and blood in order to create. It was finally put to good use. Although Meng Qi's soul item was smaller, that allowed it to be more nimble and faster. Furthermore, it was created out of many parts which allowed her to get an advantage in terms of weapons. Their fierce battle was incredibly dangerous. Soul energy surged and soul items collided. On Tang Wan'er's side, even 1 against 2, her wind blades caused her opponents to be completely flustered. They were completely caught within the domain of her wind blades. Her wind blades were too terrifying. Each one of them posed a fatal danger to them. But while Tang Wan'er might appear extremely mighty, this was also extremely taxing on her. As for the 2 corrupt celestials, they weren't idiots. They directly focused on defense, saving their core energy. Tang Wan'er's fierce tempest of attacks wouldn't be able to last long. They were waiting for the moment her core energy ran out to give her a fatal counterattack. The fiercest battle was Long Chen's. The muscular celestial had used some sort of secret technique. A blood-colored mark had appeared on his forehead, and blood dripped sinisterly from its eyes. His strength had immediately risen to a new level. The other celestials had also realized that today was no longer some simple tempering. If they didn't go all out, then they really might die. They all released their greatest power against Long Chen. Long Chen's saber repeatedly slashed through the air, each one of his moves incomparably vicious. Even the corrupt experts had never encountered such a vicious fighting style. He was practically suicidal. Each one of his moves were ones that would cause injury to both sides. They felt a chill. Long Chen was too vicious. His fighting style was clearly one of mutual destruction, but his expression was still completely calm, making them think he was just faking in order to intimidate them. Suddenly, one of the corrupt expert's swords stabbed toward Long Chen's back. Long Chen had just blocked one person's attack, and he had no time to dodge. Instead, his saber slashed toward that person's waist. It was another mutual destruction attack. Fuck, come at me. I'm not going to dodge this time. If you have the guts, then just try it. The corrupt expert roared furiously, deciding not to change his attack this time. His sword continued to pierce toward Long Chen's back. Chapter 641, 641. The corrupt expert's words were entirely correct. Long Chen really did have the guts. The corrupt expert's sword pierced straight through his back and out from his chest. A berserk energy destroyed all of Long Chen's insides. In order to kill Long Chen, the corrupt experts had given up his chance to dodge Long Chen's attack. If he had dodged just now, his advantage would have vanished. The sound of flesh and bone breaking rang out as the corrupt expert was cut in two by Long Chen's saber. Long Chen had used a mutually destructive attack several times to reverse the tide against them, causing them to stamp with fury. The Celestials didn't believe that Long Chen was actually risking his life every time like this. So this particular one had finally hardened his heart, and he had taken this gamble to see whether or not Long Chen was truly suicidal. He was shocked but also delighted. Now that Long Chen had been stabbed through the back, since he wasn't a Celestial, he wouldn't be able to heal and his death was undoubtable. The corrupt Celestial quickly pushed himself back, wanting to get away from Long Chen's deathbed counterattack. Heavenly Tao recover dash. He was just about to use his core energy to reconnect the parts of his body when a blood-red light turned him into a bloody mist. Not even his corpse remained. What? The other three Celestials were all horrified. Long Chen had clearly taken a fatal blow. The fact he hadn't immediately died was already shocking enough. But he seemed like he completely fine. They had all thought he was about to die and had lost his combat ability. Their guards had all lowered, and as a result, a corrupt Celestial was killed just like that. They had no idea that Long Chen had the primal chaos bead and could use the life energy inside it to instantly heal otherwise fatal injuries. It was even more monstrous than their heavenly Tao recovery. Rank 1 Celestials are only this level. Long Chen shattered the heavenly Tao runes that appeared in the air, and then lazily rested his saber on his shoulder, shaking his head at the remaining corrupt Celestials. When he had fought Yin Wushang last time, he had only been at the 3rd heaven stage of meridian opening. Now that his cultivation base had grown even higher, rank 1 Celestials, other than soul cultivators, were no longer able to pose such a large threat to him. Arrogant. The death of another Celestial angered the other 3 to the peak. 2 of them had already died, and no matter what the final result was, their mission would already count as a failure, and an extremely humiliating one. Out of 9 Celestials sent to kill Long Chen, 3 had died. The first one couldn't be blamed on them, but the next 2 had been killed right in front of them. They would have to bear the responsibility for those deaths. The muscular Celestial roared furiously, and his muscles suddenly increased in size, veins swimming on them. This was one of the corrupt path's self-mutilating secret abilities. Unless it was a critical time, none of them would use it. Boom! He smashed Long Chen with his club, and Long Chen's arm trembled intensely. He was actually unable to block this explosive power and was sent flying. Netherworld Ghost Cry. Another Celestial suddenly began to release endless ghost chi, which formed a white bone claw in the air that reached toward Long Chen. The other took out a human skull. A blood-red light shone in its eyes, and it shot toward Long Chen. The muscular Celestial also hit himself in the chest, vomiting blood which formed a fiendish face in the sky. All the energy of his core runes was sucked away by that fiendish face. With a fierce cry, it charged at Long Chen. The white bone claw, the human skull, and the fiendish face all shot at Long Chen at the same time. Heaven and earth changed color from their terrifying power. Long Chen was locked down by their power, but his expression was still completely calm. The primal chaos bead slowly circulated, and endless energy surged into Blood Drinker. Split the heavens. Boom! A saber image collided with the 3 attacks, causing the world to shake and terrifying astral winds to erupt in every direction. An immense crater was blasted into the ground. This hole was 100 miles deep, and a great deal of black gold or blue into the air. Those were the leftover ore. After all these years of mining, there was no longer that much left. When the dust settled, Long Chen had disappeared and the corrupt Celestials thought that he had been blown apart by their exchange. But then he suddenly appeared beside them, his saber slashing down. The corrupt Celestials were horrified. They hadn't thought that he could survive their combined strongest attacks. Now, his saber released a domineering aura that completely locked them down. Die! Scram! Suddenly, a large hand viciously slammed toward Long Chen. His heart sank, and a sense of mortal danger filled him. He hastily switched from offense to defense. Boom! The large hand slammed into Long Chen's saber, and Long Chen shot back like a shooting star, cutting a huge ditch in the ground. He vomited a mouthful of blood which also contained the broken bits of his inner organs. This attack had gravely injured him. Guoran and the others had been struck by the shockwaves from Long Chen and the 3 corrupt Celestials' attacks, and they were heavily injured, vomiting blood. But the corrupt experts had it even worse. Those who had been preoccupied with fighting Guoran and the others were all directly blown to smithereens. In terms of their physical bodies, they were fundamentally not on the same level as the Dragonblood Warriors. If the Dragonblood Warriors had to be heavily injured by this impact, then there was no way that they could survive. Of over 80,000 Xiantian disciples from the corrupt path, the Dragonblood Legion only managed to kill over 10,000. But now, over 30,000 were directly killed by that powerful impact. Only those fortunate enough to be comparatively far away from the battlefield managed to survive this calamity. Boss! Guoran and the others quickly ran over to Long Chen's side, supporting him. Tang Wan'er and Meng Qi also withdrew to his side. The corrupt experts gathered together. There was a black-robed elder at their front now. Sea Expansion Realm? Long Chen's voice was cold. Correct, answered the corrupt elder. The Dragon Blood warrior's heart sank. Wasn't it forbidden for sea expansion experts to appear here? The sea expansion expert turned toward his celestials and shook his head. Your mission counts as a complete failure. Master Guizhong, we can still fight. The female soul cultivator was extremely unwilling. Just now, she had already taken the advantage. If she could kill Meng Qi, Long Chen and the rest would definitely die. Don't try any excuses. A failure is a failure. Out of 9 celestials, 3 died, and half of 80,000 Xiantian elites also died. Even if you managed to completely slaughter them, it wouldn't change the fact that it was a failure. When you get back, you'll receive your punishments from your sex. Hopefully, you've learned something, and those people didn't die in vain. The sea expansion expert's words caused those celestials' expressions to become exceedingly ugly, but they were also helpless. They had been too careless. If they hadn't been so arrogant at the beginning and had slowly probed their opponent's strength before forming a strategy, perhaps this conclusion would have to be rewritten. But this world didn't have any ifs. Dead people were already dead. Their immense losses meant they had already failed. You little fellows, why don't you just kill yourself? Or do you want this old man to do it personally? The sea expansion expert looked at Long Chen and the others. Here, a sea expansion expert was the law. He was capable of truly controlling heaven and earth's energy, making it so that meridian opening celestials didn't have the ability to fight him. Old ghost, if you boast so much, you should worry about biting your tongue. Long Chen smiled slightly and a jade plate appeared in his hand. Crushing the jade plate, space twisted and a figure slowly condensed before him. Monastery head. Tang Wan'er and the others cried with delight. This person was precisely the Xiantian Supermonastery's monastery head, Shui Wuhan. Shui Wuhan looked at the huge hole as well as the corpses that littered the battlefield. She said to Long Chen, as expected, you really are just a troublemaker. Wherever you go, chaos will follow. Hee, nothing I can do about that. If others want my life, it's not like I can just give it to them without a struggle, right? Laughed Long Chen. Shui Wuhan's appearance calmed all of them. This was part of Long Chen's backup plan. He had known the corrupt path would very likely not act in accordance with the agreement, and before leaving he had gotten this jade from her. With her present, everything could be resolved. They could just watch the show. Shui Wuhan? I remember you. A cold light shone in the sea expansion expert's eyes. You should. You are Guizhong, correct? 800 years ago, you had a brother called Guisha whom I killed. I seem to recall that his soul was sealed inside a corpse and used as a trial for our disciples. I'm sure he had a good life all these years, said Shui Wuhan. Hearing this, Long Chen was startled. It seemed they were all acquaintances. Wasn't Guisha the soul in the corpse he had encountered for the disciple trial in the 108th monastery? From him, he had even swindled the netherworld ghost steps. But that old fellow really had been petty and immediately turned hostile. In the end, he had self-destructed. It was unexpected for this person to actually be Guisha's brother. It seemed friends really did have destiny together. Shui Wuhan, if you're thinking of protecting Long Chen, keep dreaming. You think a spiritual clone is capable of that? Sneered the corrupt elder. To handle someone only at the peak of early sea expansion, it should be enough, said Shui Wuhan. She was someone who had reached the peak of sea expansion. Although this spiritual clone only possessed 1/10 of her true body's strength, it could be counted as a mid-sea expansion expert. Shui Wuhan, I'm regretful to tell you that your spiritual clone will perhaps have to be thrown away here. Suddenly, a voice rang out that caused Shui Wuhan's pupils to shrink. Chapter 642. Following that voice, 4 figures appeared in their sky, huge wings on their backs. Shui Wuhan's expression changed completely. Out of these 4, 3 of them were at the early sea expansion realm, while the other one was at the peak of the mid-sea expansion realm. Shui Wuhan, this clone of yours will have to be left behind. Hee hee, the clone and the true body's souls are connected. I really want to leave something special behind in this clone of yours, laughed one of them pervertedly. 9 celestials and 5 sea expansion experts? Ha, you really do look favorably upon me. Long Chen suddenly laughed. Of course we look favorably upon you. The righteous paths idiots might not understand, but we know you are a terrifying talent. In the beginning, we didn't care too much about you. As a result, that mistake caused an irredeemable loss, and Yin Luo died. If he hadn't died, he would definitely have been able to at least accept a Dao seed from a senior to become a terrifying celestial. It was at that time we realized that you really are a monster that surpasses people's imaginations. We knew we couldn't let you mature. So we attacked the Xiantian monasteries. Unfortunately, even with that many Xiantian experts, you still managed to get out alive, making us miss our best opportunity. Later, your battle with Yin Wushang caused your name to finally reach the ears of our corrupt path's higher-ups. Ha, I really have to congratulate you. Our corrupt path's higher-ups knew that if we were careless again and if you managed to get away, we would no longer have such a good opportunity in the future. So, just to kill you, we organized this large-scale movement of our elite disciples and even set up this immense formation so you can't run. No matter how many reinforcements you bring out, they will all be useless. Unless you can surpass 5 sea expansion experts, any people you bring out will just be sending themselves to their deaths. But according to our information, your 36th super monastery only possesses 2 sea expansion experts, and they don't even get along. Speaking of which, I greatly admire your righteous path. You fight amongst yourselves all day, and you suppress your geniuses instead of grooming them, but somehow you have still managed to survive to this date. The heavens really are blind, sneered the corrupt sea expansion elder. As the elder confidently spoke, Long Chen stealthily took out a disc with ancient runes carved into it. Sister, I'll stall them. You activate the transportation formation disc. This is something I bought from Zheng Wenlong, and it's a priceless treasure from the ancient era. Once it's activated, it can bring all of you back to the super monastery, he transmitted to Shui Wuhan. Last time when he had seen Zheng Wenlong, he had asked for a life-saving treasure. That decision had been greatly supported by Zheng Wenlong. Zheng Wenlong wasn't afraid of himself dying, but he was absolutely terrified of Long Chen dying. It went without saying that the Huayun sect was extremely powerful. They possessed all kinds of rare and ancient treasures that could no longer be created in modern times. In order to allow Long Chen to live for a few more years, Zheng Wenlong had increased his detla even more, obtaining this formation disc from the ancient era. Although it was incredibly ancient, the energy within it had been preserved extremely well. It was more than capable of long-distance transportation. The other portion of this disc was a coordinate stone that Long Chen had buried beneath the Xiantian Supermonastery's plaza. Once the disc was activated, they would all be teleported there. But then I have to stall them. Don't think that I'm such a noble person that I'm sacrificing my life for everyone. I have my own way to protect myself, said Long Chen. But? No buts. Do as I said and bring everyone away, said Long Chen. Then have Wanner activate the formation disc. I'll stay with you. I'm just a clone, so it's fine, said Shui Wuhan. There's no need. Just do as I said and it'll be fine. They've already sensed our conversation. Although a spiritual clone did not possess a physical body, it was something that exhausted endless mental energy and spiritual strength to form. Losing a clone would cause the true body's power to immediately drop for a while. As for Shui Wuhan, who was at the peak of her realm, she could not afford to lose her clone at this time, or it would make advancing to the next realm much more difficult. I don't know what you're mumbling back there, but our corrupt path has always believed a certain phrase. In front of absolute strength, all schemes are useless. Don't bother stalling for time, because that has no meaning. Are you going to kill yourself, or do you need this old man to take action? Asked the corrupt sea expansion elder. Long Chen smiled and slowly walked forward. Shui Wuhan sighed helplessly and began to secretly activate the formation disc. But this formation disk required a certain amount of time to activate, and due to how many people it had to transport, it exhausted a great deal of energy. Furthermore, she had to do so extremely carefully, not letting the slightest fluctuation be exposed for fear of them noticing. This kind of transportation device was extremely easily interrupted at the beginning. They would be doomed if the corrupt experts were to notice. That was the main reason Long Chen had Shui Wuhan do it. No one else had the ability to silently activate it. It's Gui Zong, correct? I've met your brother. Long Chen walked out almost a mile, shaking his head at the distant corrupt sea expansion elder. Are you trying to stall? He asked icily. Go down through Yongquan, up through Xiandan, converge at Zifu, erupt at Chongshan. Long Chen began to recite a mnemonic. Hearing it, the corrupt elder's expression completely changed. How do you know my netherworld sex footwork mnemonic? Now you should believe that I saw your brother before, right? This mnemonic was something he taught me, said Long Chen. Impossible. He would never transmit my netherworld sex mnemonic to the righteous path. Don't get angry. In truth, it was like this. After I met your brother felt that I was of pure face and mind, of fair complexion and soul, a martial genius seen only once every 10,000 years. As a result, he wanted to take you as a disciple? No, he wanted to take me as a master. What nonsense! My brother was a mid-sea expansion expert in his life. How could he take you as a master? Raged the corrupt elder. He clearly respected his brother greatly. You know, to tell you the truth, even I didn't believe he would do something like this at the beginning. But then later he said he wanted me to take his soul out of the cave, then take me as his master and bestow all his life's learning to me, said Long Chen. And then he begged me to learn his netherworld ghost steps. Seeing such an old man kneeling on the ground, crying his eyes out, I didn't feel right saying no, sighed Long Chen. Get to the point. What happened? He continued to kneel on the ground, begging me to learn a few more techniques. That enraged me, and I viciously slapped him in the face for 2 days, cursing him for not appreciating my kindness and trying to take advantage of me. Buzz. Just as Long Chen's saliva was splashing everywhere as he babbled, an intense spatial fluctuation appeared. Not good, they're running. One of the sea expansion experts in the sky was the first to react. But a curtain of light enveloped the Dragonblood Legion, and the terrifying spatial fluctuations showed they were just about to be transported away. Stop them. How about you don't? Just as they were about to stop them, Long Chen laughed, and lightning python and flame serpent shot out from his arms. A terrifying aura filled the world, and the 5 sea expansion experts halted, their expressions ugly. They sensed an extremely great danger from the lightning python and flame serpent. Both of them roared, coiling together and charging through their midst. In that instant, all of the corrupt celestials felt endless terror. They could smell the scent of death from those two. They had never even dreamed that Long Chen was still holding back such a terrifying move. Such an attack could instantly kill them. The 5 sea expansion experts extended their hands. Runes lit up on their palms, and they smashed into Long Chen's attack. Boom! It was like a star had exploded. Blinding light filled the sky. Endless flames and lightning made it so it seemed even space was about to explode. When the light faded, the 5 sea expansion experts' expressions were dark. They were also filled with shock. Even with their combined strength, they had still been blown back miles by that attack. Just how could Long Chen possess such power? After that attack, the 2 tattoos on Long Chen's arms turned completely dark. Long Chen couldn't help sighing. Sea expansion experts were truly terrifying. The lightning python and flame serpent had released their full strength but hadn't been able to injure them. However, he hadn't hoped for this move to injure them. Without the support of the green dragon energy, he was merely a slightly larger ant in front of sea expansion experts. But he had at least achieved his goals. The Dragonblood Legion had completely disappeared from here. As expected, the Huayan sex wares were truly top-tier and trustworthy. Zheng Wenlong had never disappointed him. Although they got away, it's fine. Just Long Chen's life is enough. The corrupt sea expansion elder's expression was gloomy. My life? Hee hee, then we'll have to see if you have that ability. Today, I'll let you all see what my truly peerless move is. Long Chen laughed mischievously, and his aura completely erupted. Chapter 643, 643. Long Chen's aura, which had originally been at the 6th heaven stage of meridian opening, began rapidly climbing, and consecutive explosive sounds rang out from his body. Boom! 7th heaven stage. Boom! 8th heaven stage. As Long Chen's aura grew, the 5C expansion experts were shocked. Long Chen had actually concealed his true aura. The Celestials were especially stupefied. Just what kind of monster was Long Chen? In that intense battle just now, he had still been holding back his power. More explosive sounds came from his body as his aura grew stronger and stronger. It was like a volcano was erupting within his body. What a powerful aura! How could someone at meridian opening possess such an aura? Let him do as he pleases. No matter how strong his aura grows, he'll still be an ant to us. I actually really want to see what kind of trick he has. In the sea expansion expert's eyes, Long Chen was just deliberately trying to be mysterious. This was just a deathbed struggle, the scene they enjoyed seeing the most. Looks of despair were truly amazing. Wait, something's wrong. How are there so many explosions coming from his body? Gui Zong was the first to realize something was wrong. According to reason, each advancement would cause an explosive sound from one's body. But Long Chen had long since surpassed 9 heaven stages. Furthermore, with each further advancement past the 9th heaven stage, his aura would multiply. That simply was not in accordance with common sense. Finally, a loud rumbling rang out. Everyone's expressions changed as they looked up to see that black clouds had completely filled the sky. Due to the battle with the Celestials, the wrath of the heavens had caused the sky to already be filled with black clouds, so no one had noticed the change. Now that they saw the endless tribulation clouds, whether it was the sea expansion experts, the Celestials, or the remaining corrupt experts, their faces all turned purple. He's undergoing tribulation. Bastard, he's bringing us all into his tribulation? But why is this tribulation so terrifying? The corrupt experts were completely horrified. How was this lightning tribulation? This was clearly an annihilation tribulation, one that seemed like it could destroy the entire world. All disciples gather. Celestials, activate your cry of the heavenly Daos. Heavenly tribulation won't attack people within the cry of the heavenly Daos, ordered one of the corrupt sea expansion experts. The Celestials hastily activated their manifestations, covering all the disciples within the range of their heavenly Tao runes. It was fortunate they had enough Celestials, as there would be no way for one Celestial to envelop all these people. What? There was actually such a thing? Long Chen was startled. Heavenly tribulation wouldn't attack Celestials. The 5C expansion experts were also within the range of the cry of the heavenly Daos, icily looking at Long Chen. You're wasting your time. Is that so? Rumble. Endless lightning arrows suddenly rained down from the sky. Each one of them was a foot thick and 3 meters long. Miserable screams rang out. The lightning arrows went straight through the cry of the heavenly Daos, killing any Xiantian experts they encountered. Many people's bodies directly turned to dust. What's going on? The heavenly Daos no longer care about Celestials, cried one of the sea expansion experts in panic. This heavenly tribulation is different from other tribulations. It's ignoring our heavenly Tao runes. We can still endure, but those ordinary disciples will all die. Long Chen needs to be killed, cried one of the Celestials. They were horrified to see that their heavenly Tao manifestations, which had never failed before, now had no more effect. Heavenly tribulation was part of the heavenly Daos, and Celestials were the favorites of the heavens. Within their manifestations, they wouldn't be attacked by heavenly tribulation. This was common knowledge. But that common knowledge was completely overturned today. This lightning not only ignored their manifestations, but it also easily killed Xiantian experts. Even the comparatively stronger corrupt disciples were only able to endure being struck a few times. In the face of heavenly tribulation, all people were terrified. Long Chen watched these panicking disciples with a cold smile. In order to kill me, the heavens don't even mind killing their bastards. Originally, Long Chen really had thought that heavenly Dao runes could resist the heavenly tribulation. He had even been planning on charging into their midst to see what effect that would cause. But now he found his tribulation didn't show mercy to anyone. Die! Suddenly, a large hand passed through space and slammed toward Long Chen. This was not a true hand, but it was no different from a solid hand. This was an attack from a sea expansion expert formed from natural energy. Its power was truly immense. 3 stars appeared in Long Chen's eyes, and Blood Drinker released a blood-red glow as it slashed at the hand. Split the heavens. Boom! The huge attack erupted into dazzling light. Heaven and earth lost all their color. Even the lightning arrows in the sky were blown apart. Long Chen was sent flying back, his arms numb. Blood Drinker had almost blown out of his hand. As expected, without the green dragon energy, I'm not a match for these bastards. I can't fight with them head-on. Long Chen wiped off a trace of blood from his mouth and retreated. What, he actually blocked it? The sea expansion expert was startled. He had thought Long Chen would definitely die from his attack. The heavenly tribulation is getting stronger. Kill him quickly. Gui Zong's expression suddenly changed, because he found that the lightning arrows were growing even stronger and more numerous. It was still no problem for the Celestials, but the ordinary disciples were dying faster and faster. These were the corrupt path's elite disciples. Each one of their deaths caused him pain. If they still didn't kill Long Chen, then all these disciples would die. Elimination Cloud Palm. Overflowing Rain Slash. The 5 sea expansion experts all attacked, and huge images attacked Long Chen. Explosions rang out. Long Chen didn't dare take them head-on. He flashed left and right, doing his best to get away. But the scope of their attacks was too large, and he had no choice but to block a portion of them. Blocking one attack, Long Chen's shoulder broke and his entire arm almost shattered, causing him to clench his teeth in pain. Damn it, how miserable. If I could still use the green dragon energy, I could directly kill these bastards. Long Chen cursed inside. But the green dragon energy was something he no longer had. He had to rely on himself. At the same time, Long Chen was woken by an alarm. He couldn't depend too much on outer force, or it would become a habit. He had to rely on himself. However, right now, the difference was too great. He had no way to fight sea expansion experts head-on. Originally, his trump card had been Shui Wuhan. But who would have expected the corrupt path to actually send 9 Celestials and 5 sea expansion experts to kill him, a rookie in the Meridian opening realm? This was absolutely bullying. Fuck, how is the power still so weak? Are you going to wait forever? Long Chen suddenly cursed at the sky. He was cursing these damn heavens, but the 5 sea expansion experts thought it was a curse at them, and they turned green with rage. You little bastard. If you have any guts, don't dodge this one. Don't get caught by this old man, or I'll definitely make you live a life worse than death. The 5 sea expansion experts furiously attacked. Long Chen could only dodge as best as he could, appearing extremely miserable. Long Chen was so furious he wanted to curse their mothers. He had an urge to explain that he hadn't been cursing them, but then he felt such an explanation was something even he wouldn't believe. Suddenly, the sky rumbled. Countless lightning pythons appeared in the black clouds. What? The sea expansion experts immediately became flabbergasted. They saw those countless lightning pythons charge straight down upon them. Everyone, gather together. Experts on the outside, protect the disciples within. Their expressions completely changed, and they no longer even bothered with Long Chen anymore. They hurriedly went to protect their disciples. Before the tribulation, they had been less than 40,000 disciples left. But the lightning arrows decimated them down to 20,000. The 5 sea expansion experts and 6 celestials were going all out to protect these disciples, hoping to help them endure the heavenly tribulation. As for Long Chen was the main target of the tribulation, and there was no way he could run. They directly ignored him. Saving their people was more important. These lightning pythons were too terrifying. Each of them was dozens of meters long, and their thunder force could easily kill Xiantian disciples. If they didn't protect them, then other than the celestials, not one of their disciples would remain. If 80,000 disciples were all killed, it would be an extremely terrifying blow to the Eastern Wasteland's corrupt path. The 5 sea expansion experts had been in the midst of helping everyone block these lightning pythons when they looked over at Long Chen, wanting to see how he was handling the tribulation. After all, this tribulation had already surpassed the scope of their understanding. Although it wasn't as strong as their sea expansion tribulation, its scope had been hundreds of times greater. Even after living this many years, they had never seen such tribulation. Let alone seeing it, they hadn't even heard of such a thing. When they saw Long Chen, they almost coughed up blood. This bastard was definitely doing this on purpose. Chapter 644. Long Chen was sitting leisurely. A lightning python was coiled around him, protecting him from the lightning. It crazily devoured any lightning pythons that came towards him. Furthermore, Long Chen had even taken out a table. He sat in a chair, occasionally sipping some hot tea. His legs were crossed as if he was just watching a show. But fucking hell! Gui Zong roared furiously. Long Chen was the one who had brought on this disaster, but he was going through it so leisurely, while they were practically working themselves to their deaths to protect their people. This was too infuriating. Gui Zong, be careful. Don't release your aura, warned one of the corrupt experts. With that person's reminder, Gui Zong's expression changed. He hastily suppressed his fury, focusing on blocking the lightning pythons. Oh, how fishy! Long Chen gulped down some queen bee honey, narrowing his eyes. It was no wonder he had felt it was odd. Just now, he had been chased down miserably and hadn't had time to ponder it, but now he realized the truth. According to reason, heavenly tribulation would set its power according to whoever was strongest within its scope. There were clearly 5 sea expansion experts here. According to reason, that should have brought on a furious torrent of lightning. But Long Chen found that the heavenly tribulation was acting according to its old order. That meant it was still matching its power to Long Chen. Could it be that the heavens truly were blind and couldn't see these 5 sea expansion bastards? I get it. This is how you cheat the heavens. Long Chen suddenly clapped himself on the leg, realizing the crux of the matter. These 5 wily foxes definitely knew how to fool the heavenly Daos. It was the same with how he had helped Little Snow undergo tribulation. He hadn't released his aura during the tribulation, which had caused it to be duped. It was no wonder he had felt these old fellows' attacks had been a bit strange. Those attacks had been powerful, but they lacked a certain kind of energy. It was like they had form, but no power. That was because they were afraid of being sensed by the heavenly Daos. Interesting. But do you think that just enduring this one wave of attacks will mean passing the tribulation? Long Chen smiled sinisterly. He lazily stretched. Long Chen ignored the lightning pythons. In just the first wave of the tribulation, the lightning arrows, he had absorbed quite a bit of thunder force. The lightning python, which had exhausted all of its energy, had quickly recovered by eating the thunder force Long Chen had absorbed for it. Now it was still in a weak state, but it still managed to come out of Long Chen's body and devour the lightning crashing down around him. The heavenly tribulation's lightning pythons were merely dozens of meters long, while Long Chen's lightning python was over 2,500 meters. These lightning pythons weren't even enough for it to feed on. If Long Chen didn't need it to protect him, it would have already flown out to devour as many as possible. Calling you Lightning Python is kind of boring. I feel like there will sooner or later come a day when you become a dragon. How about I call you Lightning Dragon? Since my surname is Long, we can share that character. I'll call you Lei Long for Lightning Dragon and the Fire Serpent Hua Long for Fire Dragon, laughed Long Chen. What excited Long Chen was that Lei Long actually let out a loud roar. From that roar, Long Chen sensed the lightning python had grown even closer to him emotionally. Long Chen rubbed the blue flame tattoo on his right arm. Hua Long was still in slumber. That attack just now had used up all of its power. Hua Long was much weaker than Lei Long. Lei Long had always had food to eat, but Hua Long only had Long Chen's pill flame to snack on. It had been in a hungry state since the beginning. It couldn't be said that the earth flame wasn't powerful, but simply that Long Chen hadn't given it enough food for it to mature. That made Long Chen feel guilty. He had to think of a way to increase Hua Long's power. Seeing the bustling figures in the distance, Long Chen smiled, apologetically, shouting, "Corrupt brothers, people must be brave. Perseverance is victory. The heavens are nothing, and lives are just dogs' hit." This great heavenly tribulation is something we only manage to receive after hundreds of reincarnations. Our slogan is, "Don't give up, don't look back, cheer on, stand firm. I look favorably on you." Long Chen's impassioned cry rang out in every single one of the corrupt experts' ears. Gui Zong clearly knew that he was doing it on purpose, but his fury still soared, and he actually vomited a mouthful of blood. "Careful! Don't release your aura!" cried one of the corrupt experts. If Gui Zong released his aura in his fury, all their disciples would be done for. "Aya, Gui Zong, you're coughing up blood. Hurry and rest," cried Long Chen with concern. Gui Zong once more vomited blood. His aura was like a volcano that had been suppressed for countless years and might erupt at any moment. "Gui Zong, shut your ears and calm yourself," cried an elder. He threw a medicinal pill at Gui Zong. This was the only mid-sea expansion elder. Gui Zong consumed the medicinal pill and felt his spiritual yuan, which had been on the verge of erupting, finally calm down. "Many thanks, Wadash," thanked Gui Zong. "Focus on the lightning pythons," said the elder coldly, cutting off his words. Gui Zong trembled and immediately shut his mouth. At the same time, he cut off his sensation of sound. Long Chen's gaze shifted and he icily said, "Hua? So you were actually someone from the Pill Tower's Hua family. The color of your face doesn't match your neck. This kind of appearance-changing technique is far too lacking." I know. You must have applied face-changing medicinal water. There was no problem before, but your mixture contained the 9-wood poplar's flower. 9-wood poplar is extremely weak to thunder force. Even just getting infected by a trace of its aura will cause it to break down. It's no wonder your face has become so ugly. The elder's expression didn't change, but he was incomparably shocked inside. This face-changing liquid he had used was an extremely particular formula. Even the people closest to him wouldn't be able to tell who he was. But Long Chen had managed to see through him. And his words were entirely right. This formula truly did contain the 9-wood poplar's flower. 9-wood poplar was most afraid of lightning. It was unable to survive outdoors, and only grew in covered places like caves. It was an extremely unknown kind of medicinal ingredient. Although he couldn't see his own face, he knew he was exposed. But he still didn't say anything. "Tell me, how could your Hua family be so shameless? You're part of the Pill Tower, the representative of Pill Valley. But again and again, you participate in the struggle between the righteous and corrupt paths. Are you really not afraid of Pill Valley's investigation?" asked Long Chen. I don't know what you're talking about." "Keep acting. Just how long can you keep acting? The Huayan sect already has the meridian opening pill dash." Long Chen hastily shut his mouth. "You know about the meridian opening pills? Speak, where did the Huayan sect obtain the meridian opening pills formula?" raged the elder. But then seeing Long Chen's sinister smile, he immediately realized he had fallen for a trap. As expected. The Huayan sect's meridian opening pills haven't been revealed to the outside world yet, because the Huayan sect always sets things up in the best way possible, and they have to make all kinds of preparations. However, there are some people aware of it in the Huayan sect. Considering how classified this secret is, who else could you be but someone from the pill tower? Who do you think you were trying to trick? Wasn't it your spies in the Huayan sect that told you this? Sneered Long Chen. Considering how enormous both parties were, it only made sense for them to have spies between them. Long Chen had intentionally acted as if his tongue had slipped, and as a result, this old fellow really had taken the bait and exposed himself. Brother Hua, there's nothing to worry about. Even if Long Chen could grow wings, he can't fly away today, said one of the corrupt sea expansion experts. He no longer bothered trying to cover it up. The expert from the Hua family didn't say anything. He simply helped the corrupt experts block the lightning pythons. It went without saying that sea expansion experts were incredibly powerful. Long Chen didn't know how they were doing it, but each wave of their hands released powerful astral winds that caused the lightning pythons to explode. They didn't even have to use their true strength. Is Hua Wufang still alive? Long Chen asked suddenly. Long Chen, your mouth is truly detestable, raged the Hua family expert. Oh, it seems Hua Wufang has a close relationship to you. If you aren't his daddy, then he's your father. Long Chen suddenly realized he had misspoken and corrected himself. If you aren't his daddy, then you're his father. Long Chen, when this heavenly tribulation is over, I'll definitely make you live a life worse than death, one you'll beg me to end. Killing intent erupted from the Hua family elder. He was clearly truly infuriated. All right, then I'll wait for you. Long Chen smiled slightly, no longer saying anything. This elder had not been able to control his fury when he had mentioned Hua Wufang, meaning the two had to be closely related. That made this matter extremely clear. Everything that had occurred had been urged on by the Pill Tower's Hua family from behind the scenes. As for Long Chen, he was someone the Zhou family, the corrupt path, and the Hua family wanted dead. Only the Hua family could use their status as part of the Pill Tower to give some pressure to the Xiantiandao sect. The Xiantiandao sect would also not wish to offend the Pill Tower over one disciple. Sending a disciple to serve a penal sentence for 3 months in order to give face to the Pill Tower was worth it. To the Xiantiandao sect, this was just a minor matter. Furthermore, the 4 families had all been given benefits by the Pill Tower. The Shui family also considered this a small matter, and so there was no need to offend the Pill Tower. Even Shui Wuhan hadn't had any solutions. As for the corrupt path, they were the ones who had killed all the righteous disciples and stolen all the ore. In the end, all the guilt would be placed on them. The corrupt path was naturally not afraid of that. As long as they could kill Long Chen, they would be willing to do anything. Unlike the Hua or Zhou families, they wouldn't need to give an explanation for their actions. Buzz. Suddenly, the lightning pythons began to lessen. The corrupt experts almost cheered in relief. Long Chen, get ready to die. The Hua family elder was just about to attack when he suddenly became absolutely still, and then slowly raised his head to look up at the sky. Chapter 645. 645. The Hua family expert had assumed the heavenly tribulation had ended. He was just about to attack Long Chen when he sensed something was wrong. The others were all looking up at the sky in horror, their eyes filled with shock. When he raised his head as well, he saw the tribulation clouds had been concealed by countless lightning monsters. The lightning monsters blocked the clouds, making him think that the clouds had already scattered. Each one of these lightning monsters was over 300 meters long. There were wolves, tigers, leopards, jackals, etc. These weren't true magical beasts. They were merely what Thunder Force had transformed into. And yet, the endless destructive aura released from them made it seem like they could destroy the entire world. What kind of heavenly tribulation is this? The 5 sea expansion experts were all appalled. Even when they had undergone their tribulations, the thunder force itself had only been slightly stronger than this. Furthermore, no lightning monsters had appeared. The lightning pythons had already been extremely shocking to them. But now that they saw these lightning monsters, they all turned numb. "Is it because we exposed our auras?" guessed one of them. "That's absolutely impossible. We didn't use any of our true abilities. There's only one possibility. This lightning is all because of Long Chen, and we're only being implicated," said the Hua family elder. "But how is that possible? How could a Xiantian tribulation menace sea expansion experts?" Rumble. The lightning monsters didn't give them time to ponder that question. They began to surge down. Boom! A celestial smashed apart one of them, only to be knocked back, wildly vomiting blood. Even celestials could only destroy one lightning monster at a time, and they would be heavily injured as a result. These lightning monsters were too terrifying. The most terrifying thing was that the black clouds in the sky were like incubators for these monsters. An endless stream of them came crashing down on the corrupt path's experts. No. One of the lightning monsters slipped through into the midst of the corrupt disciples. Even with 5 sea expansion experts and 6 celestials, they were unable to block these endless lightning monsters. As soon as one of them slipped through, it underwent a violent slaughter of the corrupt disciples. Miserable screams rang out incessantly. Long Chen was also surrounded by lightning monsters. Lei Long devoured them frantically, but there were too many, and some of them still managed to reach Long Chen. His saber released blood-red waves. Any lightning monsters would be killed with a single slash of his saber. Having frequently had to deal with thunder force, Long Chen had long since become accustomed. He had an extremely high resistance to it, so while the Celestials couldn't block the backlash, Long Chen could essentially ignore it. Furthermore, Lei Long had already grown past 3,000 meters. It was becoming more and more terrifying. The lightning monsters might be powerful, but they didn't know how to defend. They were devoured one by one. Long Chen only had to handle any that slipped through. In comparison to the corrupt path, he had it extremely easy. The corrupt path was in a complete mess now. There were too many lightning monsters and too many corrupt disciples, causing their defensive perimeter to be too large to defend. Lightning monsters would occasionally manage to slip through. By the time a sea expansion expert could destroy it, hundreds of corrupt disciples would die. In less than an incense stick's time, there were less than 10,000 corrupt disciples remaining. Furthermore, they continued to be slaughtered. The corrupt experts' expressions were incomparably gloomy. This time, they really had brought disaster upon themselves. If this continued, how were they supposed to give an explanation to the sects that had participated? Everyone, work together and endure. This is definitely the last wave, ordered a sea expansion expert furiously. Seeing his elite disciples be turned to dust, he was incredibly anxious but also helpless to do anything. These lightning monsters were too powerful. Each one of them could be compared to a half-step sea expansion expert. Furthermore, they were formed from thunder force, making them even more terrifying. The sea expansion experts didn't dare release their true power to fight. Handling a few dozen lightning monsters at one time was already each of their limits. As for the 6 celestials, they had truly been abandoned by the heavens. They no longer received any protection from the heavenly Daos. They were ruthlessly attacked by the lightning monsters, constantly vomiting blood. Fortunately, they had their heavenly Tao recovery. They could use their core energy to heal. Otherwise, they would have already died. This heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. In just a few more minutes, the corrupt disciples numbered no more than 5,000. However, with fewer people, it became easier for them to defend. Their defensive perimeter shrank, and it was no longer so taxing. Boom! Suddenly, the lightning monsters disappeared, which made the corrupt experts sigh with relief. Some disciples directly collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. They had finally managed to escape with their lives. The corrupt experts saw Long Chen standing in the distance, his saber resting on his shoulder. He was smiling at them. That smile, It could only be described as wretched, incredibly wretched. Just looking at it would make a person feel like they might explode. Longchen, hand over your life. One of the sea expansion experts was just about to charge at him. Longchen waved his hand to him and then pointed his finger at the sky, winking. What? When they looked at the sky, they were all filled with despair. The tribulation clouds had yet to scatter. They were gathering together, and endless lightning runes were condensing. A terrifying pressure fell on all of them. Is there ever going to be an end? Roared an unwilling celestial. Longchen sneered. Just this was enough to make them mad? He had started undergoing this annihilation tribulation since blood condensation, and he hadn't even complained. Well, the main point was that complaining didn't have any use. Good things should be shared with others. The true tribulation began now. Rumble! The explosive rumbling coming from the sky was the only sound that could be heard. The heavenly might made even the sea expansion experts' expressions change. They sensed mortal danger. Suddenly, 9 figures appeared in the sky. It was 9 human-shaped lightnings. Their faces weren't clear, but they had a pair of wings on their backs, and they were 3 meters tall. They made everyone feel endless terror. One of those human-shaped lightnings shot toward the corrupt path. A lightning prong actually appeared in its hands, which it stabbed down. One of the sea expansion experts slammed his hand toward it, and as a result, he was sent shooting back, vomiting a mouthful of blood. Any disciples unfortunate enough to be behind him ended up being smashed apart by the impact. A long line of death appeared in their midst, as the sea expansion expert only managed to stabilize dozens of miles away. Hundreds of corrupt disciples had died from this one exchange. That was more than 1/10 of their number. There was no way around that, as they were too gathered together. They didn't even have a chance to dodge. Following the first human-shaped lightnings, the other 8 also flew down. What made the corrupt path the most infuriated was the fact that only one went after Longchen. The other 8 charged into their midst. A celestial exchanged blows with one, and as a result, he was sent flying, cracks appearing all over his body. He had been just the slightest bit away from instantly dying. Don't look after the ordinary disciples anymore. Focus on protecting the celestials, cried one of the corrupt experts. He began a fierce battle with one of the human-shaped lightnings. The ordinary disciples despaired. They had been pitilessly abandoned. In just a few breaths' time, those ordinary disciples were all slaughtered. The 5 sea expansion experts and 6 celestials were doing their best against the 8 human-shaped lightnings, but they were still in a dangerous situation. We can't continue like this. If we don't go all out, we'll also die, roared one of the sea expansion experts. But if they did release their full power, the lightning tribulation would immediately sense them and release even more terrifying lightning tribulation based upon their cultivation base. Longchen was in the meridian opening realm attacking the Xiantian realm, which drew down Xiantian tribulation. In other words, if the sea expansion experts were sensed by the tribulation, it would send down tribulation for when they attacked the realm even higher than sea expansion. They were only at the early sea expansion realm, and such a heavenly tribulation would definitely kill them. One of the laws of heavenly tribulation was that it wouldn't allow experts to interfere, or it would attack them. But if the people interfering were not stronger than the person undergoing tribulation, the tribulation would still be set to the power level of that person. In other words, amongst all these Xiantian experts, Longchen's power was at the peak. Otherwise, an ordinary Xiantian tribulation would not be even close to this level. Longchen was also fighting a fierce battle now. These human-shaped lightnings were too terrifying. But with Lei Long's assistance, it still wasn't extremely dangerous for him. Furthermore, his high resistance to lightning was something that even sea expansion experts could not hope to match. So those sea expansion experts were battered and bruised, but he was still fine. The only thing that made him depressed was that Lei Long was unable to devour the human-shaped lightning. It could only help him fight it. Finally, a sea expansion expert once more vomited blood from being struck by a human-shaped lightning and was about to die. In his desperation, his aura erupted and an illusory sea appeared behind him. Die! He was finally unable to endure it. If he still didn't release his full strength, he would definitely be killed. Boom! His punch sent the human-shaped lightning flying. But in that instant, everyone's expressions changed, including Long Chen. Chapter 646. In his desperation, a sea expansion expert had finally released his powerful aura. The 9 human-shaped lightnings immediately blossomed with boundless light, looking like 9 suns. Endless lightning runes raged in the sky, covering the entire battlefield. Damn it! The Hua family's experts' expression changed. Now that one of them had released their aura, it was immediately sensed by the heavenly Daos. The current tribulation was no longer targeted at just Long Chen, but one targeted for someone at the sea expansion realm. They had already undergone their sea expansion tribulations. This new tribulation was a ruthless test for peak sea expansion experts attacking a higher realm. If this continued, they would all definitely die. What? Suddenly, everyone realized that at some unknown time, over 30 black figures had appeared out of nowhere, looking as if they had sprouted from the ground. Even after fighting this long, not even the sea expansion experts had noticed that there had been this many people hidden within the battlefield. Furthermore, it was impossible to sense these people's auras. In fact, these people had even managed to avoid being sensed by the heavenly tribulation so far. But now that a sea of lightning filled this entire space, they had nowhere to hide. Suddenly, a sharp dagger stabbed toward Long Chen's back. A figure had already crept behind him without anyone noticing. Children from the Bloodkill Hall, you've finally come to play? I've been waiting for a long time. Long Chen sneered. Ever since this battle had started, he had felt a bit uneasy. He had forgotten to include the Bloodkill Hall's fellows into his calculations. He hadn't expected them to be this daring. They actually dared to try and assassinate him in the midst of his tribulation. Furthermore, they actually had some kind of secret technique to keep themselves hidden from the tribulation. It went without saying that the Bloodkill Hall was truly powerful. Long Chen blocked the dagger with his saber. He was just about to give the assassin a vicious blow when he felt an intense danger, and he hastily slashed his saber to the side. Boom! Long Chen's saber collided with a human-shaped lightning's fist. He shot back like a shooting star. He was horrified inside. This human-shaped lightning's power had increased by at least 10 times. Now it was troublesome. Quickly kill Long Chen. Otherwise, every one of us will die, cried one of the sea expansion experts. At the same time, he was sent flying by a human-shaped lightning, madly vomiting blood. He appeared miserable to the peak. However, he immediately escaped from his human-shaped lightning and shot toward Long Chen. Such a heavenly tribulation was something even sea expansion experts wouldn't be able to endure for long. But as long as they killed Long Chen, the heavenly tribulation would disappear. They had to kill him as fast as possible. As for those celestials, they could no longer care about them so much. If they didn't kill Long Chen, all of them would die. As for whether or not the celestials could survive, it would be up to their luck. The Bloodkill Hall's assassins had originally been hiding in the battlefield. Not even the heavenly Daos had been able to sense them. They were extremely patient killers, and they had been waiting for the best opportunity to kill Long Chen in one blow. But now, they would no longer be able to obtain any better opportunities than this one. The endless lightning had exposed them, and with the change in the tribulation, they had to kill Long Chen quickly before they all died. Heroes from the Bloodkill Hall will be in charge of attacking directly. You should focus on attacking from the sides. Try and kill him with a single blow, ordered the Hua family's expert. After escaping from his human-shaped lightning, he shot toward Long Chen. He saw that these assassins were all in the Meridian Opening realm. Otherwise, no matter how amazing their secret art was, there was no way they could have stayed hidden from the heavenly Daos. Their defensive strength was low, but their killing power was exceedingly terrifying. Their exquisite assassin arts were incredible. Furthermore, The Hua family's experts' sharp gaze saw that these assassins had a dark gold badge hanging on their waists. That was proof of their status, dark gold rank assassins. In order to kill Long Chen, the Blood Kill Hall had actually sent over 30 dark gold assassins at the same time. This was a first in the history of the Blood Kill Hall. It could be seen that Long Chen had completely infuriated them, and they had to kill him to retrieve the dignity of the Blood Kill Hall. The Hua family expert sent out his orders, but the assassins completely ignored him. They didn't say a word. It was unknown whether they had consented or not. Seeing everyone charging at him, Long Chen felt a chill. There was no way he could beat 5 sea expansion experts at the same time. I can't keep holding back any longer. 3-star battle armor. Clenching his teeth, 3 stars appeared in Long Chen's eyes. An aura that caused heaven and earth to change color soared, causing a loud rumbling. If he didn't take the initiative with this first attack against the 5 sea expansion experts, he wouldn't even be able to last a few breaths. He had to go all out. Split the heavens too. Long Chen's spiritual chi crazily surged, immediately going through 9 acupuncture points. Normally, that would be the moment he would release the first form of Split the Heavens. But now, all the power of Split the Heavens stayed within his body and surged through another 9 acupuncture points. If the heaven-splitting divine sex disciples were to learn about this, they would definitely crap themselves in terror. Split the Heavens was too terrifying, and if they wanted to use the second form, then they would have to discard 80% of the power of the first form, and then use only the remaining 20% to activate the second form. Even retaining 40% of the first form's power would cause their bodies to explode. That was just asking to die. But now Long Chen had retained all of the first form's power. He cultivated the 9-star Hegemon body art, which made his physical body incomparably powerful. He was just barely able to endure this terrifying impact. But in the instant he activated the second form of Split the Heavens, cracks appeared on his body, and blood seeped out of his skin. He had already reached the limit of his physical body. An immense bloody blade pierced into the sky, looking like a divine weapon that could split apart heaven and earth. It instantly enveloped all 5 sea expansion experts. This was the strongest attack Long Chen had ever executed with his own strength. The instant that bloody blade appeared, the 5 sea expansion experts, 6 celestials, and 30+ dark gold assassins were all horrified. They had never seen such a terrifying attack. The valiant will within it was something even heaven and earth would have to lower their heads to. Endless Blood Sea. A corrupt sea expansion expert used a secret art to push his power to his peak. Raging flames incinerate the heavens. The Hua family sea expansion expert no longer bothered hiding his identity. A huge flame blade appeared in the sky. The other sea expansion experts also brought out their strongest techniques. They definitely couldn't give Long Chen any breathing room. If they couldn't kill him with this exchange, they would die to the lightning. Even if they couldn't kill him with this move, they had to heavily injure him to give the Blood Kill Hall's assassins the chance to kill him. According to reason, in such a battle, meridian opening cultivators were nothing. But the sea expansion experts placed high hopes on them because they were dark gold assassins. The 6 celestials also used their strongest attacks, working together with the sea expansion experts to kill Long Chen. They had less than a single breath of time before the human-shaped lightnings caught up to them. Today, life and death would be decided by this one exchange. Boom! Long Chen's saber slashed down, seeming to break apart the sky, colliding with their attacks. This was truly a world-shaking collision. A blinding light lit up the sky. The world seemed to have lost all its color, as a huge ball of light rapidly expanded. The ball of light devoured everything within 10,000 miles. There were still a few people in Chaos City that were watching this. Many of them had activated photographic jades to record everything. These few remaining people were the members of the restaurant, brothel, and gambling house. Their powerful backgrounds had allowed them to escape from the slaughter. Crap, run! These people suddenly realized something was wrong. They turned to flee, but it was too late for them. terrifying astral winds directly razed Chaos City. Broken fragments of the city dashed in the air. The terrain had completely changed. A huge hole had formed in the ground, and terrifying astral winds still raged. Even the human-shaped lightnings were blown into the distance by the winds. The 5C expansion experts were sent flying. Out of 6 celestials, 5 of them almost exploded from the impact. However, one of them did actually explode. Another celestial had died. Longchen didn't have it any better. His body was covered with cracks. Blood streamed out of him. In some places, his bones were already sticking out. He hastily circulated the primal chaos bead to heal. At the same time, he grumbled inside. This attack had exhausted all of his spiritual chi. As expected, the more powerful it was, the more exhausting it would be to use. Die! Suddenly, a cold shout rang out. Longchen was shocked to see the Bloodkill Hall's assassins appear in front of him without having taken any damage. The C expansion experts were also shocked. They had never imagined Longchen's attack would be so terrifying that even 5 of them were still injured after having worked together. However, they were also delighted inside as Longchen was also heavily injured. The Bloodkill Hall's Dark Gold assassins had already gone to reap his life. The Dark Gold rank assassins of the Bloodkill Hall were all given a life-saving measure. That was the badge on their waist. Once it was activated, they would be able to temporarily ignore any attack, which would give them time to flee. Dark Gold assassins were too valuable and they couldn't be allowed to be killed. Hee, everything's over, sneered a corrupt celestial as he climbed up from the ground. You want to kill me? Hopefully you still have more life-preserving measures. Longchen suddenly formed a hand seal, and a spiritual fluctuation spread. A large white figure appeared by his side. Chapter 647. Little Snow appeared in front of Longchen. Opening his mouth, a dozen fist-sized wind blade spheres shot out. Those spheres then erupted, releasing streams of wind blades at the assassins. How is this possible? Didn't the report say Longchen only has a 5th-rank magical beast? One of the assassins only had a chance to cry out before he was submerged by a current of wind blades and completely blown apart. These assassins didn't have a second badge, and all 30 of them were slaughtered. The wind blade streams didn't stop. They pierced into the ground, creating endless gulfs. This was Little Snow's first time releasing his full strength since advancing to the 6th rank. Even Longchen was stupefied. Suddenly, a ray of light soared into the sky, and a huge light figure appeared. It was an ancient phoenix. Its golden wings spread in the sky. It was noble, sacred, and irresistibly grand. It even made people have an urge to kneel and worship. Phoenixes were divine beasts that had only ever existed in legends. However, now this image had appeared in the sky, and it was the exact same as the ancient images and carvings. This world actually did contain the existence known as the divine phoenix. The image of the phoenix circled in the sky and then slowly disappeared. However, the light still remained in the sky. Everyone's gaze followed that light down to its source, and their pupils shrank, wild delight appearing on their faces. Little Snow's attack had destroyed the land, revealing a huge chunk of or thousands of meters long. This or was the same shape as the phoenix image just now. Compared to that immense image which had been thousands of miles long, it was much smaller. However, this or shone with endless light. Everything within thousands of miles was bathed in a blood-red light. Phoenix blood black gold. One of the Celestials shouted with a crazed joy and shot toward it. Phoenix blood black gold was treasure class material. Furthermore, it was a peak grade material amongst treasure class material. No one could resist its allure. That person only just shot out when a human-shaped lightning appeared beside him. With one punch, it directly blasted him to smithereens. Another Celestial had fallen. Everyone's hearts shook. This bloody reality told them that they were still in the midst of the heavenly tribulation. Little Snow, we're running. Longchen suddenly jumped onto Little Snow's back. They quickly darted away. Two of the human-shaped lightnings had already locked onto him. Right now, his tribulation was no longer his own, but the tribulation for the realm above sea expansion. Since even sea expansion experts would be killed, there was no way he could face it. His only option was to rely on Little Snow's speed to stall until the sea expansion experts were all killed. Then the heavenly tribulation would return to normal. The sea expansion experts wanted to kill Long Chen, and Long Chen also wanted to kill them. But he didn't have the power right now, so he could only stall like this. A human-shaped lightning shot toward him. Although Long Chen hastily slashed out with his saber, he didn't dare to take it head-on because Little Snow wouldn't be able to take the impact. Boom! As a result, Long Chen and Little Snow were sent flying. It was fortunate that Little Snow had advanced to the 6th rank and his constitution had greatly improved. After being sent flying, he quickly stabilized in the air and then continued fleeing. Suddenly, another lightning figure shot over. Lei Long quickly wrapped around it. Bang! Lei Long was blown apart by the human-shaped lightning, turning into lightning runes. After being blown apart, Lei Long's runes once more condensed into its old form, and it continued to entangle the human-shaped lightning. Lei Long, don't face them head-on. We just need to last longer, said Long Chen. He clearly saw that after Lei Long had been blown apart, it had shortened and its strength had dropped. Lei Long had been personally raised by him. As the two of them were connected mentally and Lei Long had also gained some spirituality, it could understand his meaning. Long Chen fled miserably. However, he didn't run very far as there was no point. The heavenly tribulation was locked onto him. If he ran too far, it would end up drawing the lightning tribulation with him. Then wouldn't he have ended up helping these fellows? Long Chen wasn't the kind of person who did good deeds without leaving his name. Even if he had to die, he would bring them down too. Long Chen appeared battered and miserable, but the corrupt path was in an even more dangerous situation. The remaining 7 human-shaped lightning were all attacking them. But no. Suddenly, a woman's mournful shriek rang out. The soul cultivator was finally unable to endure it and was killed. There was no way around it. Soul cultivators possessed the weakest physical bodies. Previously, there had always been a sea expansion expert to protect her, which was the only reason why she had lasted until now. But now that the sea expansion experts could barely protect themselves, she was the first one to die. Following her cry, in less than a breath's time, another celestial couldn't hold on and died. The only celestial remaining was the muscular one with the spiked club. But once the people by his side were killed, he immediately became the focus of 2 human-shaped lightning. No! Although he was extremely unwilling, his life was mercilessly harvested. After killing him, the 2 lightning figures charged toward the closest sea expansion expert. As soon as those lightning figures left, Long Chen arrived at the place where the Celestials had died. Their heavenly Tao runes were just about to fade. Since you've come, don't leave. Come to my tree. Long Chen slashed with his saber, destroying the heavenly Tao runes. He sensed those runes being absorbed by the primal chaos bead. Long Chen was delighted. As expected, the more brazen a person was, the greater the gains they could make. He had truly made a killing this time. Boom! Long Chen had just begun feeling pleased with himself when he was struck by a thunder force attack. He vomited blood, tumbling back with Little Snow. Little Snow, run. Now's the most critical moment. Whoever can last longer will live. Under Long Chen's urging, Little Snow focused completely on running. It was fortunate that these human-shaped lightnings only contained a simple destructive will, and they didn't know many battle techniques. Long Chen relied on his combat experience to keep them at bay, stalling for quite a bit of time. As the battle continued, the lightning grew even more terrifying. In the end, Long Chen could only flee. There was no way for him to exchange any blows with them. Just as Long Chen felt like he might really die, a shrill shriek came from the corrupt path. But in Long Chen's ears, it sounded like the music of the heavens, sounding just as wonderful as Ziyan's zither playing. It was truly a sound that could make flowers bloom within his heart and cause all his pores to cheer. One of the sea expansion experts was finally unable to endure and was killed. But as his physical body was destroyed, a soul flew out and was about to escape. However, even sea expansion experts were not capable of that. The lightning runes released by the human-shaped lightnings filled this entire space, and when his spiritual strength touched that sea of runes, it instantly exploded. Let alone him, even that soul cultivator with her terrifying spiritual strength had been unable to escape her fate. Following his death, the other 4 sea expansion experts immediately despaired. The 4 of them were now dealing with 7 human-shaped lightnings. The pressure immediately multiplied. Another sea expansion expert was killed, his corpse blown to bits and his soul scattered. The 2 of them dying was like the breaking of a dam. The sea expansion experts had fallen into despair. Almost immediately, the other 2 corrupt sea expansion experts were also killed. The only one remaining was the Hua family's elder. Previously, he had relied on his mid-sea expansion cultivation base to just barely keep himself alive. But now that the other 4 had died, he had no chance against 7 human-shaped lightnings. He despaired. He felt regret. He regretted ever plotting this operation. In order to kill a meridian-opening rookie, he had ended up causing his own downfall. Longchen, I won't let you off. Just wait. He suddenly shouted, and his body became covered with endless flames. Raging fire, blazing cycle, abandon my body, protect my soul. Raging flame soul rebirth art. Following a furious roar, the Hua family's sea expansion expert was instantly burnt to ash. A soul enveloped by flames shot through the sea of lightning runes and disappeared. As expected, the Hua family's foundation is truly thick. He actually has such a secret art. However, once such a technique is used, his spiritual strength will be half crippled. But I suppose it's not a bad exchange for preserving his life. Longchen watched as he left. The endless lightning rune sea suddenly dissipated, and the aura of the human-shaped lightnings dropped a great deal. Suddenly, Lei Long let out a furious roar and actually devoured one of them in one gulp. Seeing that, Long Chen was delighted. Split the heavens. The 8 human-shaped lightnings were blown back by Long Chen's attack. Lei Long opened its mouth and devoured all of them. It then turned into a ray of light that returned to Long Chen's arm. The tribulation cloud scattered, revealing a starry sky. During this battle, the day had silently passed into night. Lei Long is actually so powerful. Even without my help, it can still refine them. Long Chen had originally thought he would have to do the same thing as last time and help it suppress the lightning runes. But unexpectedly, Lei Long's strength had already risen to the point that it could suppress the 9 human-shaped lightnings on its own. However, to fully refine them would require some time. But Long Chen trusted that once that was finished, Lei Long would definitely become incomparably terrifying. Seeing that Lei Long was fine, Long Chen hastily rushed toward a certain place. A pillar of light was still soaring into the sky from there. A priceless treasure was waiting for him. Chapter 648, 648. This is Phoenix Blood Black Gold? I've truly struck it rich. The Phoenix Blood Black Gold appeared as if it had been made from blood. The red light that came from it made it seem like the entire world was bathed in blood. The ore was in the shape of a phoenix. Long Chen couldn't help but wonder, had a phoenix truly died here? I can't leave you just lying all alone here. Long Chen grabbed the Phoenix Blood Black ore, but he found that he was unable to even budge it. What the fuck? I can't take it. Long Chen was immediately flabbergasted. This Phoenix Blood Black ore was too heavy. There was no way for him to absorb it into the primal chaos space. Buzz. Suddenly, Blood Drinker let out a cry. Its blood-colored marks lit up, shining on the Phoenix Blood Black Gold. Long Chen was startled to see that it seemed like it had met some kind of summoning, and it slowly came out of the ground. He was delighted, and not bothering with why such a thing was happening, he hastily absorbed it into the primal chaos space. With it floating in the air, it was easily absorbed. But as a result, it thudded into the ground of the primal chaos space, causing everything to shake. Only now did Long Chen notice that the primal chaos space had grown from 300 miles to 3,000 miles wide. It was extremely expansive. But now wasn't the time for that. Jumping on Little Snow's back and picking a direction, he fled. Long Chen held onto Little Snow. He was already completely exhausted, and he fainted. This battle had been too dangerous. By now, all the life energy in the primal chaos space had been used up. Even the little bit in the medicinal ingredients hadn't been spared. It could be said that Long Chen had truly pushed himself to his breaking point. If it hadn't been for Lei Long, in the end, he would have had no assurance in being able to defeat the final human-shaped lightnings. Although the sea expansion experts had died, the lightning had still been extremely terrifying. If Long Chen had been in his peak state, then he wouldn't have had to be afraid. But by that time, he had been completely exhausted and hadn't had the strength to fight them. It was all thanks to the fact that Lei Long came from the same source as the heavenly tribulation. The 9 human-shaped lightning hadn't possessed any intelligence, and so they hadn't attacked their brother. That was the only reason why they could be devoured so easily and slowly refined. It could be said that Long Chen's tribulation this time had been like dancing on the tip of a blade. Luck had played a major role in his survival. After he fainted, endless darkness appeared before him. It was like the entire world had been devoured by it. Long Chen was extremely familiar with this scene. It had appeared several times now. As expected, after the darkness appeared, that voice once more rang out. "I've sensed you again, meaning your strength has once more risen. However, the world barrier grows weaker and weaker. I can barely sense you now. Perhaps I will never be able to communicate with you through the 10 planar worlds again. All you need to know is that the fate of millions of lives is in your hands. You have to." Suddenly, Long Chen felt a powerful vibration within this dark world, and somehow the darkness grew even darker, so dark that it caused despair. The voice also came to a sudden stop. He didn't know how much time had passed before he finally opened his eyes. Little Snow was still running. Only after asking him did he learn that it had already been 3 days. Long Chen had Little Snow stop by a fresh stream. Drinking some water, he rested, adjusting his condition. After this slumber, many things had appeared in his head. What made Long Chen delighted was that the formula for the 4th star, the Enlightenment Palace star, had finally appeared in his head. The only thing that made him a bit depressed was that the pill formula required 136 6th-tier supplementary medicinal ingredients, 28 of which he did not have. There were also 9 main 6th-tier ingredients, of which he was lacking 1. It had to be known that Long Chen had long since entrusted Zheng Wenlong with gathering all kinds of rare medicines for him. But even with Zheng Wenlong's efficiency, he was still unable to obtain those medicines. That meant these ingredients were incredibly rare to the point that even the Huayan sect would require a long time to find them. Refining the Enlightenment Palace pill was one problem, but he had a bigger problem. That was that voice. Now, Long Chen had confirmed this voice was not the voice of the dragon expert. He didn't know where it was coming from, but each time it appeared, he would feel like his head was lost in a haze. He felt more and more pressed for time, but as for why, he was unable to tell. That made him extremely vexed. If he knew what the reason behind this was, perhaps he could come up with some way to handle it. But Long Chen had no idea what the danger this voice kept speaking of was. That was what irritated him the most. Pill God memories? 9-star Hegemon body art? 10 planar worlds? What are they? Long Chen rubbed his head bitterly. This was a complete muddle, and there was nothing for him to form a good theory on. Furthermore, having cultivated to this point, he had felt that he was getting closer to having the qualifications to find out about the origins of his parents. But after hearing about the structure of the Martial Heaven continent, he realized he was far too minute. There was still a long journey before he could stand at the peak of the martial path. A green scale appeared in his hand. Right now, the power of the scale was completely locked inside it. That was something the dragon expert had done to maintain the essence blood inside it. Having advanced to Xiantian and undergone the baptism of the lightning tribulation, my physical body has grown much stronger. But I still sense a great danger from the scale. I'm still unable to refine it. Long Chen didn't know exactly what level his physical body had reached, but he knew that he had undergone a complete transformation this time. The energy within him was like a volcano that wished to explode. Long Chen trusted that with his current strength, he no longer needed to fear early sea expansion experts. However, one discovery angered him. It was true that he had gotten stronger, and his spiritual qi had transformed from a gaseous state to a liquid state, becoming spiritual yuan. But no matter how he tried, he was unable to use his spiritual qi to control the natural energy like others. He was unable to form a resonance with heaven and earth. He cursed in fury. His cultivation path was completely different from others. He couldn't try cultivating like others. But fortunately the 9-star Hegemon body art was so powerful. Who cared if the heavens rejected him? He could refine his own pills and forge his own path. He didn't need the damn energy of heaven and earth. Long Chen sank into thought. He needed to be cool-headed right now. He pondered his future cultivation path. Currently, the corrupt path would definitely do whatever they could to kill him. They had sent 5 sea expansion experts, 9 celestials, and 80,000 Xiantian elites, but they had all been exterminated because of Long Chen. If news of that got out, the entire eastern wasteland would be shaken. That was too dangerous. He could become the target of the corrupt path as well as the righteous path. Furthermore, the Bloodkill Hall wouldn't leave things as they were either. The Bloodkill Hall's assassins were too terrifying. Their concealing arts were monstrous, as even the heavenly Daos had been unable to sense them. Even Long Chen hadn't imagined that they would dare hide right beside him while he underwent tribulation. If the sea expansion expert hadn't released his aura, perhaps Long Chen really might have suffered from their sudden attack. Right now, Long Chen could be considered to be surrounded by enemies. This was no good. He had to think of something else. The Dragonblood Legion had just advanced to Xiantian, and this perfect advancement had laid down a solid foundation for their future path. Their future prospects were unlimited. Tang Wan'er and Meng Qi had now become celestials. That would definitely shake the Xiantian Dao sect, and they would be given special care. He had no need to worry about that side. Damn it, after all this thinking, aren't I the only one who needs to be worried about? He realized that everyone else's paths had already been set up perfectly. Only he had to choose something unorthodox. If he returned to the Xiantian Super Monastery, he would also be given great care by the Xiantian Dao sect. He would most likely be directly sent through the Super Monastery to the branch sect. It went without saying that he would end up joining the Shui family. Once he joined the Shui family, he would once again be at the heart of the struggle. The Zhou family and the Shui family were like water and fire. Long Chen disliked that kind of idiotic inner strife, so he decided returning was not an option. Oh, how could I forget about that? Long Chen suddenly thought of a certain thing. That was a tablet he had obtained in Phoenix Cry. Grandmaster Yun Qi had bestowed it to him. This was a token of Pill Valley. Grandmaster Yun Qi had once said that only someone who had reached the Pill King rank before 18 had the qualifications to use that tablet to join Pill Valley. Later, Long Chen had asked around and found that his words had been off. It was true that you could join Pill Valley with this tablet. But first, you had to go through the Pill Tower selection. Pill King only represented that someone could refine 4th-tier medicinal pills. Long Chen had already advanced to the Xiantian realm, and his spiritual strength was as vast as an ocean. His refining arts were especially so exquisite that he could look down on anyone else. If he went to the Pill Tower, there were many things he could do. One was to gather all the medicinal ingredients for the Enlightenment Palace star. Of course, the more kinds of medicinal ingredients the better. He had more than enough space. The other thing to do was to prepare a gift for the Hua family. Not doing so wouldn't be in accordance with his style. The most important thing was that if Long Chen didn't condense the Enlightenment Palace star, he wouldn't be able to bring his body to its peak state and refine the green dragon essence blood. With the green dragon body tempering art, his power would leap to a whole new level. For all these reasons, after carefully thinking about everything, Long Chen decided to go be an obedient student at the Pill Tower. Following that decision, he borrowed the stream water to dissolve a high-tier appearance-changing pill. Applying that mixture on himself, his skin quickly changed color to become slightly dark, glowing with a healthy light. He adjusted portions of his face, but he didn't need to make too many adjustments. There were far too many people in this world, and there were many people who looked alike. His brow ridge was now slightly raised, and the corner of his eye was slightly sunken. 2 dimples appeared when he smiled, which made him appear handsome. But no matter how a person looked at him, he wouldn't seem like a good person. This is the best. It won't draw other people's jealousy. Long Chen looked at himself in the mirror. With a pleased smile, he led little Snow away from the stream. Chapter 649. The news that the Chaos region had been destroyed within a single day rapidly spread. As soon as Shui Wuhan returned to the super monastery, she alerted the Dao sect that the corrupt path had publicly broken the agreement, and their experts were currently bathing the Chaos region in the blood of the righteous path. The Xiantian Dao sect was completely infuriated. They immediately transmitted this news to the various large righteous sects. They also immediately dispatched experts to join Shui Wuhan in killing their way into the Chaos region. But the Chaos region was located in an extremely isolated and far-off region of the eastern wasteland. It took several transportation formations as well as a great deal of travel to get there. As a result, it was already the next day by the time they arrived. The righteous path had been filled with killing intent and just been about to settle the bill with the corrupt path when they saw everything within a range of 10,000 miles had been turned into an abyss. They were all shocked. How was this the Chaos region? Even Xiantian experts wouldn't dare to enter this place due to the lingering destructive aura. If a meridian opening expert tried to go in, they would immediately be annihilated by that destructive aura. This had become a hell on earth. Let alone them, even Shui Wuhan was dumbfounded. She had been hoping that by leading all these people, she could save Long Chen. Although that hope had been remote, she was extremely confident in Long Chen. Perhaps Long Chen really could have created a miracle and lasted until she arrived. But when she had left, this place had been a battlefield. Now that she returned, it had turned into this. If there weren't still some markings in the surroundings, she would suspect that this wasn't even the Chaos region. Where were the 5C expansion experts? Where were the Celestials? Where was the army of tens of thousands of corrupt disciples? How could they all disappear? And looking around, she saw no signs of an army leaving. What had happened here? Although she had no idea what had happened, there was one thing she was sure of. This definitely was because of Long Chen. Later, the other experts guessed that heavenly punishment had occurred here. This heavenly punishment wasn't referring to heavenly tribulation. Heavenly punishment was the wrath of the heavenly Daos. It was divine punishment, one that would exterminate everything. They came to that conclusion due to the endless destructive aura remaining on the ground. Heavenly tribulation was used to temper a person's body. Although it also contained some destructive aura, 90% of it was life energy. But this destructive lightning aura didn't contain the slightest bit of life. It was entirely destructive. This could only be called heavenly punishment, the punishment of the heavenly Daos. Could it be that the corrupt path slaughtered too many people, and so the heavens decided to make them pay a price? Although this theory was a bit absurd, it was the only explanation that they could think of. On the same day that the righteous experts arrived, the corrupt path's experts also appeared. The corrupt path had suddenly stopped receiving any updates about their operation this time, and feeling that something was off, they had sent some experts to investigate. As soon as they appeared, the righteous path surrounded them. The corrupt path had only sent some people to investigate, and they were much weaker than the army the righteous path had brought. They were instantly caught. An expert soul cultivator directly soul-searched them. And after that soul search, he laughed heartily. 5 Grand Sea expansion experts, 9 Celestials, and 80,000 Xiantian elites. Ha, good. The corrupt path was really screwed this time. From soul searching, he learned about the general situation. When the others heard these many corrupt experts had come here to steal the ores but had clearly died here, the righteous path cheered and clapped. But just after they began to cheer, they realized the people from the Xiantian Dao sect were all extremely gloomy. They immediately realized the truth. Stealing the ores had just been an excuse for the corrupt path. Their true goal had been to kill Long Chen. In order to do so, they had even been willing to set up an incredibly giant formation. Thinking of that, they thought of who Long Chen was. He wasn't even a celestial, but he had managed to defeat Yin Wushang. That was enough to show that his future accomplishments would be limitless. But how did such a genius get sent to a place like this? People began to quietly ask this question to the members of the Xiantian Dao sect, causing their expressions to become even uglier. I told you this was a trap to kill Long Chen, but you wouldn't believe me. It's all your fault that Long Chen has died. Shui Wuhan's eyes were red, and she raged at a group of elders. No one could survive this kind of heavenly punishment. Long Chen was definitely dead. Thinking of that, Shui Wuhan's tears streamed down. Cough, you can't put it like that. It was just an accident, said an elder. Nonsense. It was your Zhou family that constantly targeted Long Chen. Did you think no one noticed the fact that you accepted bribes from the Pill Tower to intentionally punish Long Chen? Raged Shui Wuhan. There were thousands of righteous experts here. They were all people who had had minds here, which also meant they were powerful people with their own status. Shui Wuhan's furious roars immediately drew all their attention. We don't randomly make up lies to slander my Zhou family. The elder was also enraged, but he did his best to cover it up, panic flashing in the depths of his eyes. Slander? Ha! Just how many people in the Xiantian Dao sect don't know about your Zhou family's despicable actions? Do I even need to slander you? Your Shui family isn't any better, snorted the Zhou family elder. Wuhan, don't say any more. If you want to talk about it, wait until we return to the sect. Now isn't the time, ordered a lean elder. He was someone beyond the sea expansion realm, someone known as an ancestor-level expert. His voice and aura were both filled with majesty. By arguing here, the two of them would only cause others to laugh at the Xiantian Dao sect, so he hastily stopped them. We'll talk once we return to the sect? What will we talk about? Who is going to listen? I already said that this was a trap targeting Long Chen, but what did you say? All you said was that you would discuss it later. And wasn't the result that later became tomorrow, and tomorrow became the day after? Now Long Chen is dead. Are you happy? Raged Shui Wuhan. Silence. Shui Wuhan, using my status as vice sect master, I order you to return to your super monastery immediately. Ordered the elder. Fine, I'm going. I want to see just how you would deal with everyone's ridicule. Shui Wuhan wiped off her tears. Wings appeared on her back, and she disappeared from everyone's gazes. The Righteous Path's experts all had odd expressions. Everyone here was an old fox. From just their short exchanges, they could tell most of what had happened. After all, in the Righteous Path, these kinds of secret backstabs were far too common. However, only a few people had any sympathies. In fact, there were many more that were delighted in their misfortune. Of course, they couldn't display that. They had to act as if it was a great pity. Fortunately for them, that was the act they were most proficient in. Long Chen, a generation's genius, a hero that died in his prime. How regretful. Let me express my sorrow for your sect. Long Chen was truly a hero. His sacrifice was worth it. I feel like your sect should compensate his family. Long Chen sacrificed himself, but 5 sea expansion experts, 9 celestials, and 80,000 Xiantian disciples were also killed with him. I feel like you should immediately establish a statue to commemorate his heroic sacrifice. After a few consolatory words, they said their goodbyes. There was nothing else for them to do, as there had originally been less and less ore coming out of these mines recently. They had only come in order to demand an explanation from the corrupt path. But considering how heavy the losses of the corrupt path were, their own losses were nothing. The corrupt path was definitely filled with fury now, and it was not suitable to get into contact with them. So leaving was the best option. The corrupt path was filled with madmen. Considering how angry they were, there was no telling what kind of crazy things they would do. They had to return and make their preparations against any possible sneak attacks from them. If they were caught unprepared, it would be troublesome. Long Chen's death had nothing to do with them. Actually, the death of a peerless genius wouldn't bring them any grief. In fact, now they had one less competitor to worry about. They want us to build a statue in commemoration for Long Chen? Their heads must have rotted, muttered the Zhou family elder. Shut up. I think your head is the one that has rotted. Don't think I don't know what vile acts your Zhou family have committed. But this time, you've really gone too far. Don't let me find any proof, or don't blame me for the consequences, roared the vice sect master. With a gloomy expression, he led his Xiantian Dao sect's people away. 7 days later, Long Chen appeared in a Huayan auction house within the secular world. In a private room, he was facing Zheng Wenlong. Brother Long, thank goodness you're still alive. Zheng Wenlong gave Long Chen a tight embrace and then hit him. When I heard you were dead, I even thought about killing myself to end it. I would never be able to repay my debt. Long Chen laughed, knowing he was just joking. Zheng Wenlong was truly a good brother. Long Chen sensed his sincere emotions. Long Chen had stealthily arranged to meet Zheng Wenlong here through the auction house. He gave Zheng Wenlong a letter for Shui Wuhan so that she and the others wouldn't worry. However, for now, it was best if Long Chen remained dead. At the same time, he had Zheng Wenlong send some things to Tang Wan'er and the others. Furthermore, he had to continue borrowing more money from him. The thing that depressed him was that his lightning tribulation had been too terrifying, and he hadn't been able to gather any spatial rings from it. Following the deaths of their masters, spatial rings would lose the protection of their master's soul. That made them much weaker, and under the terrifying impact of his heavenly tribulation, they had been completely destroyed. The only thing Long Chen could do was give Zheng Wenlong a ring with a large batch of medicinal sprouts. As for how Zheng Wenlong sold them, it would be up to him. In any case, it wasn't enough to repay his debt. After setting that up, Long Chen told Zheng Wenlong repeatedly not to leak the news that he was alive. He was about to undergo a quiet and peaceful life. If he needed to find Zheng Wenlong, he would contact him secretly. The two of them set up a secret phrase. When Long Chen went to Huayan auction houses in the future, he would tell them to tell Zheng Wenlong this phrase, and he would immediately come to see Long Chen. After sending off Zheng Wenlong, Long Chen once more put on his disguise. He then brazenly swaggered right out of the Huayan auction house. Chapter 650. 650. Shui Wuhan was filled with grief when she returned to the Xiantian super monastery. The only thing in her mind was his warm, brotherly smile. It was like the sound of him calling her big sister was still echoing. She wished she was overthinking things and that he hadn't died. But within the Chaos region, the righteous experts had found quite a few enchanted item fragments. Those were weapons of sea expansion experts. If even such weapons had shattered, then it could be seen just how terrifying that heavenly punishment had been. Even sea expansion experts would have to die. Just how was Long Chen supposed to survive? In other people's eyes, it had been extremely worthwhile for Long Chen to sacrifice himself to bring all those people to the grave with him. But in Shui Wuhan's heart, it didn't matter how many corrupt experts he had brought down. Not even all their lives added up together were worth Long Chen's. Seeing other people's barely concealed expressions of joy, she felt like needles were stabbing into her heart. The Xiantian Dao sect had sent down word that Long Chen was a hero of the sect and that they had carved his name onto their stele of heroes, an extremely rare honor. But so what? Seeing Tang Wan'er and Meng Qi's hopeful gazes, Shui Wuhan could only tell them that he had disappeared, and they were doing their best to search for him. Now, 10 days had passed. She didn't even dare leave her room, afraid of seeing Meng Qi or the others, afraid of them asking her for news about Long Chen. As for Zhou Qingyi, she had spent these days doing her best to fawn over Meng Qi and Tang Wan. The two of them had become celestials, and she had received orders from her family to pull them to their side. As a result, the two of them didn't say a single word to her, which caused Zhou Qingyi to feel dejected and infuriated. But she didn't dare release that fury, and she could only thicken her skin, continuing to suck up. In the end, Tang Wan'er directly announced that they were going into seclusion, and only then did they escape from her harassment. Zhou Qingyi's actions actually ended up helping Shui Wuhan, as it was only now that she dared come out of her room. Reporting to the monastery head, the Huayun sect's Zheng Wenlong wishes to see you. Shui Wuhan was startled. Wasn't Zheng Wenlong someone close to Long Chen? Why would he come to see her? With the Huayun sect's power, they should have long since received word of what had happened. A possibility popped into her mind, and she didn't receive Zheng Wenlong in the large hall, instead meeting him in a private room. When Zheng Wenlong gave her the letter Long Chen had personally written, she could not be more emotional. She didn't even know when Zheng Wenlong left. This little scoundrel. As expected, his life really is hardy. Even the heavens can't take it. Shui Wuhan sensed Long Chen's specific spiritual imprint on the letter. She was now absolutely sure he was fine. She felt incomparably relaxed, feeling like she had immediately returned to her maidenhood. He wants to go to the Pill Tower to pursue his studies? If a hooligan like you goes to the Pill Tower, it'd be strange if some kind of disaster didn't befall them. Seeing his tactful words, Shui Wuhan bitterly smiled, shaking her head. She felt some sorrow for the Pill Tower. In this world, there were things that you couldn't imagine, but there were no things that Long Chen wouldn't dare do. Long Chen's mind was always filled with the wildest thoughts. The most frightful thing was that he didn't just think of those thoughts, but he also dared to do them. Thinking of Long Chen's previous experiences, it seemed he had never done anything like an ordinary person would. And whatever he did, he also caused such a huge commotion. Fine, go be a disaster over there. Our super monastery can have some peace. Shui Wuhan smiled. That smile was one delighting in someone else's misfortune. Long Chen had sent her a total of 3 things: a letter, a photographic jade, and a spatial ring. The spatial ring was for Tang Wan'er, so she didn't touch it. She activated the photographic jade instead. What? The Zhou family was actually this involved? Shui Wuhan was startled. The photographic jade had a record of Zhou Kuan's words from back then. His admittance to the Zhou family being used by the Pill Tower, colluding with the corrupt path, and trying to kill Long Chen were all clearly recorded. Even the death of the Zhou family's elders, the corrupt celestials, and the Hua family elder that had been exposed were recorded. Everything was extremely obvious and indisputable. Hee, Zhou family, let me see just how you will try to quibble this time. Shui Wuhan personally went to give the spatial ring to Tang Wan. Now she no longer had to have so many worries, and she was practically in glowing spirits. Tang Wan received the spatial ring and saw another photographic jade inside, as well as a letter. The letter said that Tang Wan should tell everyone not to rapidly cultivate. The Xiantian realm was a realm for comprehending the heavenly Daos. Mental realm and comprehension were more important in this realm. Only once they could perfectly control natural energy could they release the strongest possible attacks. Just having their cultivation bases rise without that comprehension would have no meaning. When she activated the photographic jade, Tang Wan'er bitterly laughed. Long Chen had found himself another beauty. But then hearing Ziyan's zither music, she felt like her heart had been cleansed, as if her soul had been purified. Her mind became completely at peace. This is a legendary soul-calming song. Even Shui Wuhan was greatly startled. This kind of soul-calming song only existed in legends. It was said that a single soul-calming song could cause a person to become completely relaxed and allowed their mental realm to advance as much as it would through 1,000 days of cultivation. After hearing it, even Shui Wuhan felt like she had entered a special state, and her mental realm had advanced a trace. This sister has amazing zither arts, praised Meng Qi. It's not just her zither arts that are amazing. She's outrageously beautiful. That bastard. Tang Wana was clearly a bit jealous. The bastard she was referring to was naturally Long Chen. Long Chen had repeatedly said that he had been completely obedient outside and hadn't done anything impure. But then what was this photographic jade? Wana, a single photographic jade can't represent anything. This soul-calming song is practically God-sent for us, so don't be petty. Laughed Meng Qi. I'm not being petty. Then why are your eyes so red? Teased Meng Qi. Sister, you're also evil now. Tang Wanner blushed. She really was unhappy that Long Chen had hidden this matter from them. Shui Wuhan shook her head. You two really are like children. This woman's mental realm is exceedingly high, untouched by mundane affairs. How could she get involved in romantic matters? Music Dao cultivators are extremely special. The majority of them are women, and it's said that in all their lives, they will never involve themselves in such affairs. Your worries are for nothing. Monastery head, I'm just mad that Long Chen didn't tell us. I'm not jealous. Tang Wanner turned even redder. This soul-calming song is truly a priceless treasure. Take care of it and don't let anyone else find out about it. I will set up a private room for you all so that no one can disturb you. In the Xiantian realm, comprehension is more important than cultivation. Use the soul-calming jade to cleanse your minds every day, and your mental realms will advance rapidly. I'll also profit from this soul-calming song. Perhaps I can find an opportunity to break through with its assistance. By Shui Wuhan's realm, breaking through wasn't just a matter of hard work. It needed comprehension, or you would never break through within your lifetime. Anyone who could cultivate to the sea expansion realm was a genius among geniuses. But to take the next step not only required perseverance and talent, but also luck and opportunity. Monastery head, do you want to go into seclusion with us? Asked Tang Wan. Long Chen had always been cheeky toward Shui Wuhan, but that was limited to when it was the two of them alone. Normally, when others were present, Long Chen would maintain a certain distance from Shui Wuhan. After all, she was the monastery head, and when there were outsiders present, Long Chen would always act extremely respectful. Tang Wanner and the others only knew that Shui Wuhan had always been looking after Long Chen. They didn't know just how close they were. I also want that, but I need some time first. I have an extremely important matter to handle. Remember, don't let anyone know about Long Chen. After warning them, she directly brought Zhou Qingyi to the Xiantian Dao sect. Zhou Qingyi was extremely curious, but all Shui Wuhan said was that something big was about to happen. Something big really did go down. When the four families and the vice sect master were present, Shui Wuhan revealed the photographic jade Long Chen had given her. The Zhou family immediately became paralyzed with terror. Colluding with the corrupt path was punishable by the extermination of their entire family. The vice sect master's expression had immediately turned dark. He icily stared at the Zhou family's people with fury. I'll give you one chance to give me a satisfactory explanation. The assistant sect master's roar caused everyone to jump. However, the Zhou family's people were truly worthy of being wily old foxes. There was no direct proof that they had truly done this. After all, they couldn't just listen to one side of the story, and one person's word was not enough to say anything. The Zhou family's patriarch immediately underwent a thorough investigation of this matter. The truth quickly surfaced. It was Zhou Qingyi and her son who had received a bribe from the Pill Tower to secretly collude with the corrupt path to kill Long Chen. In order to prove the Zhou family's position, they executed Zhou Qingyi and her son that very day. When Zhou Qingyi's head, with its terrified and unwilling expression, fell to the ground in front of everyone, everyone sighed inside. Why bother? For an inner-sect competition, they had actually thrown in a sea expansion expert. It had to be known that the entire Zhou family only had 8 sea expansion experts. The happiest one would have to be the Shui family. The Shui family had truly completely defeated the Zhou family. Furthermore, the Zhou family patriarch had personally gone to ask the Shui family for lenience. He asked the Shui family to not continue pursuing this matter. This way, they could turn this major problem into a minor one, and then make it disappear altogether. Of course, the Zhou family also prepared a special gift that even the Shui family hadn't been able to refuse. For at least a short time, the Zhou family would not dare to fight against the Shui family again. Other than this, there was also the matter of the Pill Tower urging things from behind. That infuriated the Shentian Dao sect, and they immediately sent people to the Pill Tower for an explanation. Although they knew the Pill Tower would definitely not admit to anything, at the very least, it would tell them not to treat others like idiots. They shouldn't go too far. Of course, the Dao sect would definitely demand some compensation, or if this matter was announced, the Pill Tower's prestige would drop to the ground. The Zhou family had suffered a serious blow, but although they said that they admitted their defeat, in reality, they were like a poisonous viper that had retreated into its cave, just waiting for a chance to inject their fangs into the hearts of their opponents. After handling the Zhou family, Shui Wuhan also reported the news that Tang Wan'er and Meng Qi had awakened as celestials. The vice sect master had immediately ordered her to groom them with her fullest capabilities. Whatever they wanted, they would get. Only then did Shui Wuhan return to the super monastery perfectly contented. Now, the 36th super monastery was truly about to rise. They would quickly be able to compete with the other super monasteries for the qualifications to enter the immemorial pathway. Shui Wuhan was filled with expectations. It had to be known that she not only had Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er in her hands, but she also had a person whose name was enough to strike terror in the hearts of his enemies. He was currently pursuing his studies, but who could tell what kind of disaster he would cause in the Pill Tower? She was very much looking forward to that. All she needed to do was wait for the news. Chapter 651. Pilyang Prefecture. Amongst the surrounding prefectures, it was the one with the smallest territory. Its perimeter was merely 10,000 miles. It was around the same size as the Chaos region. But of all the prefectures in the eastern wasteland, it was the richest prefecture. Furthermore, this prefecture only had one master, the Pill Tower. Everything here was controlled by the Pill Tower. There was no sect or power that could establish itself here. There was also no one who dared try to take a bite of this prefecture's profit. Pilyang Prefecture was a paradise for alchemists. Thus, most of the cultivators here were alchemists. The reason why the Pill Tower could gather over 80% of all alchemists in the eastern wasteland wasn't just because of its wealth and resources, but because of its extremely precious alchemy tomes. Only by entering the Pill Tower could you study those ancient pill arts that had been passed down from ancient times. Only by entering the Pill Tower could you reach the peak of the Pill Dao. That was the first thing alchemy masters imparted to their disciples. Only by entering the Pill Tower would you have a chance of entering the holy land of cultivation, Pill Valley. Pill Valley represented the supreme authority of this world's alchemy arts. It was the most sacred power in this world. There was not a single alchemist who didn't treat joining Pill Valley as their lifelong ambition. Pilyang Prefecture was actually one city, a monstrously enormous city. There were dozens of roads that were over 30 miles wide to allow for the carriages to pass. All of the carriages were being pulled by Xiantian magical beasts. Weaker magical beasts weren't even able to run fast enough. The city was just too big. If you didn't have good means of transportation, it might take you many days just to get to the other end of the city. Above the city, it was common to see large magical beasts flying. But the people below were too lazy to even look at those enormous figures. This was the Pill Tower's territory, and no one dared be unbridled here. No matter how fierce a person was, they had to be obedient here. The flying magical beasts were all registered with the Pill Tower. Each of those magical beasts had a large symbol around their neck which was a pass to fly here. Without it, they would be killed by the pill tower's guards. The flying passes were extremely limited. Not just anyone had the qualifications to obtain one. Those who could sit on flying magical beasts all had high statuses. Within Pilyang Prefecture, there was a large tower, a tower so high that it soared into the clouds. It was impossible to see its top. This was the Pill Tower's symbolic building, the 7 Treasure Jewel Tower. It was forbidden to fly within thousands of miles of the tower. No one could fly around there, or the magical beast and its master would be instantly killed. This was the core region of the Pill Tower, and it was called the Treasure Tower region. Only alchemists had the qualifications to enter this place. Other cultivators were forbidden. Outside the Treasure Tower region, Long Chen was sitting in the corner of a restaurant, looking at the scenery outside. He was having a drink on his own. This was his 3rd day here. He had pretty much familiarized himself with this unfamiliar environment. He had also learned some common knowledge regarding the Pill Tower. It should be enough. After eating and drinking his fill, Long Chen went to find somewhere to rest and think of how he would muddle his way into the Pill Tower. Without realizing it, Long Chen walked into a remote alley. This alley was a bit shabby and was extremely unremarkable. It was precisely the kind of place he wanted. Does Sir want a place to rest? Our rooms are very clean, and the price is exceptionally cheap. Come and have a look. Long Chen was in the midst of walking when a small door opened, and a girl appearing 13 or 14 years old shyly peeked out. This girl couldn't count as beautiful. She was extremely thin, and her complexion was an unhealthy yellow color. It was clear that she had some malnutrition problems. But her eyes were extremely lively, and they made people feel pity for her. It sounds like you've been waiting to say those words for a long time. Long Chen laughed. Words were said extremely stiffly. This girl had only summoned the courage to come out when she saw someone was passing. But then seeing Long Chen's evil smile, a trace of panic filled her. The girl clenched her robes, afraid to say anything. Long Chen couldn't help laughing. It seemed his new face had ended up scaring her. No need to be afraid. I'm not a good person, but I'm not a bad person either. Long Chen hadn't changed his voice. It was still very magnetic, and it made her relax slightly. Does Sir want a place to rest? Our rooms are very clean, and the price is exceptionally cheap. Come and have a look. She repeated her words, hope appearing in her eyes. Yes, now it sounds better. Your words don't sound as stiff as before. In recognition of your advancement, I'll agree to take a look. But let me say this first, if it's not satisfactory, I won't be staying there. Long Chen laughed. Yes, please enter. The girl hastily led the way with delight. Long Chen walked in through the gate and took his first look at the inside. How was this an inn? It was clearly a small farmer's yard. There was a 2-story wooden house. The farming tools hadn't even been put away, and Long Chen even saw the head of a hoe and sickle behind a wooden plank. But this place was very tidy. Entering the house, he walked up to the 2nd floor. The girl opened up a door, revealing a bed. And then, there was nothing else, not even a table. It could not be more simple. There were sheets on the bed, and they were very orderly, but they were clearly not new. However, they had been cleaned very well, and Long Chen could still smell the scent of the sun. The sheets had most likely been hung and dried outside, and he did like that kind of feeling. Looking out of a very small window, he saw a small pond with a small boat floating on the water. It wasn't a bad picture. Are you satisfied? If there's anything you're not happy with, just ask and I'll do my best to fix it, said the girl worriedly. It's not bad. It's very simple and charming. Lying on the bed, you can even count the stars. Long Chen nodded. Yeah. The girl followed Long Chen's gaze and blushed. There was a plate-sized hole in the roof that she hadn't noticed before. Sir, please wait a moment. I'll immediately go fix it. She was just about to go find a ladder. It's fine. It won't rain for a few days. This kind of sunroof is not bad. If you block it, it'll just look like an eyesore, said Long Chen. Sir, you really are interesting. Following Long Chen's jesting, the girl was no longer as nervous as before. How much is this room? Asked Long Chen. An embarrassed look crept over the girl's face. Gulping, she stuttered, How about 1 silver for 1 day? 1 silver a day? Long Chen frowned. Ah, if you think it's too expensive, we can discuss it. The girl jumped in fright, afraid he might leave. Within the expensive territory of the Pilyang prefecture, that price is way too low, laughed Long Chen. Hearing that Long Chen wasn't mad about the price, the girl was extremely grateful. She sadly explained, My grandpa saved up for many years in order to buy this property. We hope to turn it into an inn to make some money. But my grandpa is old, and his eyes have become diseased, so there's no way for him to do any manual labor. I hope to run this inn well enough to provide for my grandpa. You're our first guest. The girl couldn't conceal her excitement. Pulling Long Chen into her inn made her extremely happy. Xiao Chui, let our guest eat. An elderly voice rang out from below. Come, let's go eat. Long Chen followed the girl to the first floor. He saw an elder standing beside a table, twisting his head to hear. He was blind. Here we have some simple food and tea for our guest. Please don't be courteous. The elder bowed to Long Chen. Sir is too formal. I'm no noble person, and simple, coarse food is what I'm used to, said Long Chen politely. Sitting down, he saw that there were only some vegetable dishes. There was no meat. The soup was a simple cabbage and tofu soup that didn't smell too bad. Long Chen saw that when the girl portioned her soup, she took mostly the cabbage, but the serving she gave him had quite a bit of tofu. He couldn't help sighing inside. No matter how flourishing the city was, there were always people struggling to survive on the lowest level, struggling just to have food to eat. So you aren't someone from Pilyang Prefecture? Why did you come here? While eating, they chatted with Long Chen, finding him to be friendly and easygoing. I just came here so I could fill up my stomach. Tomorrow, I'll go find some work to make some money. Long Chen smiled. Big brother, is that 1 silver a day too expensive for you? You can stay here until you have the money to repay us, said the girl. She was now much closer to Long Chen. That's just some pocket change. Don't worry, my current employer is extremely rich. When the time comes, I'll make an investment and build you a huge inn, and Xiao Chui can be the boss, said Long Chen. This grandfather and granddaughter might have it extremely hard in this place, but they were still very kind-hearted. Long Chen hadn't encountered such simple and honest people in a long time. Xiao Chui, starting tomorrow, go buy some more meat. This big brother of yours is rather gluttonous. Long Chen threw a sack of money to Xiao Chui. Inside were over 100 gold coins. It had been a long time since Long Chen had ever spent such things. Heavens, this much? Xiao Chui jumped. She had never seen this much money. Even just buying this little courtyard had only cost a few dozen gold coins. Long Chen laughed. This child was too thin, and she was still in the midst of growing. She needed some more nourishment. Long Chen returned to his room and slept for a night. The next day, he directly set off for the Treasure Tower region. It was time to get down to business. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.